nine, eight, seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
Welcome back, everyone, to week number 4 here at Oversight, powered by Hyperlux. My name is Dia, and I have the privilege of being joined by Vicky. How are you doing, Vicky?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be back on the broadcast with Dia. I always enjoy casting with you, and I've been able to see a lot of these Oversight events and how they've played out, and I'm super excited to see the teams that we have in store for us tonight.
Yeah, we've got a lot of action coming through, and the thing that I wanted to start today with, actually, Vicky, as we sort of mirror the ALGS in this way, are the stakes of tonight's games, because we're entering week 4. We've got just a couple more weeks over here at Oversight, and it's time for teams to start thinking about the playoffs that are going to be taking place right here. So we've got the graphic for it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the teams that are currently positioned near that playoff spot. The cutoff for it, Vicky, is 20th place. So, at the end of today, you do want to be trying to push yourself at least into the top 30, but ideally, getting yourself a little bit safer in that top 10 area.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the top 20 right now. ESA, who've had a really great performance in the ALGS just yesterday, maybe looking to try to secure themselves some of those extra points to feel a lot more safe if they want to play in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is also not the first time that ESA has made their way into the finals at Oversight, but with a qualifier win. This is actually duplicating the results from just last week, where they also managed to jump in at the very top of the quals, but CLG above them in the standings right now actually came in just second yesterday, and they're another team that I certainly have my eye on, is sort of trying to cement their spot right now, because there's a lot of competition. You look at CLG and you go, okay, well, naturally, yes, 12th place is good for them, but right below them, MPS, G2, SSG, Sentinels, SCN, I mean, these are all teams that you'd be expecting to collect a lot of points in the next couple weeks.
Absolutely. And then even looking at the other side of the top 10, we got to talk about it. There's a lot of changes that have been happening in the competitive Apex space. Team Liquid, no mas. We got Xset making their way right back into the competitive Apex space, and I'm so excited to be able to cast over the Xset games that we're going to be seeing going down today for the Oversight event. But it's also really nice to see how a lot of these teams are going to be able to use this opportunity, because we were talking about it actually before we got started with the show, but this lobby is comprised of 15 of the teams that are going to be performing in the ALGS finals this Sunday. So there's a lot on the line for these squads to perform to their best potential today, so that way they can feel warmed up for the official professional ALGS League 2.
Yeah, I think this was exactly what Tempo tweeted at the start of the day, was saying, hey guys, you want to make sure to tune into Oversight, because essentially all of that high tier gameplay that we saw just yesterday in the ALGS gets to continue with Oversight. And that's the thing that I really like about tournaments like this, is that they allow us here at Oversight to be able to watch everybody do the exact same things and really practice and dial in their strategies, because we are working towards top tier tournaments, not just in the ALGS, here as well. You talked about some of the squads that we'll be seeing tomorrow. I wanted to highlight that we've got the Guard TSM, formerly Team Liquid and now Xset, as well as Luminosity, whose spots in playoffs for the Apex Legends Global Series are already secured.
Yeah, it's so nice to see a lot of these teams now make their way here to perform today. Of course, it is nice to talk about the top 10 teams from the finals. Dark Zero, Guard, Complexity, G2, Optic, TSM, SZN, Space Station, BR Demons, and now Xset. And then the top 10 from the qualifiers that you were able to see over: ESA, CLG, Karasuno, Tripods, 100 Thieves, E8. We had NRO at one point here, as Luminosity have stepped in for them. Oxygen, as well as Sentinels.
Yeah, I actually wanted to highlight Complexity. You talked about them coming from the winners bracket of last week. They managed to place top 10, actually top 3 on the day, and I am so excited to see this squad play again. I felt robbed not quite getting to see it happen just yesterday, but Complexity have really had my eye recently, and a big part of that has been Luxford. We got the chance to drop into a few listen-ins with them last week on Oversight, and it meant a lot to be able to understand where this team is coming from and how they make decisions in the mid-game. I think they've got this really nice twinge of aggression going that could push them into the top of, well, alongside the TSMs, the NRGs of the day.
Yeah, you know, when you talk about complexity, they radiate the energy mindset where if they start really strong, you can expect it to be a very good day for complexity. That inability to stay as consistent as we're used to seeing from complexity, I feel it comes from the confidence that this team expels when it comes to starting off their day. And in day 8 for the LGS, where they did have an amazing day, they started off with a win with 6 KP to their name. After that, they stayed roughly within the top 10, even cleaning up some KP along the way and getting third place twice. So this is definitely a team that now they've had a bit of a break. Now joining in us with the Oversight tournament, they could definitely replicate that same sort of success.
Now we're dropping into World's Edge for Game 1. We're going to be doing 3 games over here on World's Edge before we swap over to Storm Point and give everybody their fair shot at performing on both maps. A team that I'm especially curious about has to be Sentinels as we hit World's Edge for the first time, because last week here in Oversight, they didn't put up really any kills. No, it was just straight up 0 kills when we were on World's Edge. It was only Storm Point that they were succeeding on in any way, and you got to cross your fingers for Sentinels because they've already had a struggle bus season.
Yeah, it's been difficult for Sentinels here, you know, especially looking at how they were able to do through the qualifiers here as well. We get to tune in to where the circle is going to be taking us. I love these type of circles because you could expect that beacon building north of Fragment West to get contested very early on in the game. That information is going to be so essential to know if you want to get gate kept leaving out of Fragment West, or even trying to get out of the choke point exiting out of Harvester. Going to be a lot on the line as we get to take a look at how congested Lava Siphon is.
Yeah, I'm noticing, speaking of those beacons, TSM should already have the read. Will they have the time to survive, though? Hal, going low, does manage to step aside from that nade as Dark Zero contesting in Lava Siphon is going to make things all the more difficult. I don't think TSM expected this.
Absolutely not. Dark Zero actually contested them on the other side. I love the suppressed fire for Hal to just restabilize. He felt so incredibly low to Sharky in that 30-30, but now they're just going to bunker up, call it quits for right now because there's another squad in the area.
Good pressure from Verholst as well, keeping the IGL safe. It's he and Reps that push up and force Dark Zero to take a step back, setting up defensively now and allowing Hal to join the rest of the squad. Jen Burton eats a lot of damage on the way back in as well. Sharky covering the door, but both teams frozen in place as the rest of the lobby's going to start moving, Vicky. Everyone else is thinking about the rotation. Dark Zero taking out Hal first, have started to make waves. Rep's going to get fried, and it's just Verholst left.
Oh, wow, it's only up to Verholst, and he can't do it. TSM is the first squad to go down in the lobby to Dark Zero. What a 50-50 contention success for Dark Zero, but this is a big deal with TSM being the first squad to go out of the lobby. I mean, look, we got to talk about this real quick, Dia. When it comes to TSM, they have these amazing days. They popped off in the last day of the ALGS. They got first place once again, surprise, surprise, popping off in the ALGS with 75 points to their name. And then they're the first team to go down here in the Oversight event.
Yeah, I think it's good for them. That's the hot take that I'm going to have. This first game, if any, is the one that you really want the wake-up call. So for any TSM fans on Copium right now, that's what I'm giving you for the first game of the day. We'll see how well it works out, as you know that I was looking out for Complexity, and they're already set up in Overlook, where SZN got this really wide landing, good setup, first choice of where they'd like to play, and have chosen to play these little silos, at least for the opening of the game. Shiny actually posting up around the outside, so SEN covering a lot of area. Well, we've got Complexity around this corner.
Really smart, with a lot of these teams already making their way into Overlook right now, and with the beacon being right above Overlook, SZN are in such a good spot, but it also means that teams like the Guard rocking the Crypto could also get that next set of information, as CLG are making their way actually right behind them here too. Gonna try to set up the Watson Jenny for right now. You see them get right back into the drone to see which of the squads are within this area. They see 5 squads are actually already in the area of Overlook, so that's going to be easily contested by the other squads that are making the rotation away from Fragment.
Drop your shields, ladies and gentlemen. There are 2 Cryptos right inside of Overlook, stacked on top of each other. It is not going to be a fun time to eat those EMPs, because you will be needing a little bit more in terms of the shields for a lot of the squads that have rotated in early. It's not just teams like Guard underneath, but teams like BR Demons, for example, CLG even, who have already set themselves up inside Overlook, have done so at the... Oh my god, what is
Oh?
happening with Guard? What is
Oh,
going
no,
on
no,
right now?
Keon, where'd you go?
He's off the map!
That did not just happen. He was trying to actually avoid getting shot. We saw the other squad that's holding the building on the south side of where this little island is. And he was getting shot. He was getting contested. He tried to break off and he fell off the map. But let's see if RKN can at least try to get that banner here. Again, he is on the crypto and this building is free for them. But sometimes we've seen the circle pull away from this island. It was Space Station who was actually contesting them from inside that building, but adding in that extra pressure when they took that skyward dive.
SCN continuing to play the silos up top. We'll have direct sight lines on anybody from Guard trying to leave the building of their own. The nice part of the position that Guard have just taken is that it's very, very difficult to push, especially with SCN in a position like this. You have to run across a bridge to really take advantage of where Guard are at to try and push them at all, and they're keeping themselves safe in a way.
CLG in the feed managed to get a knock onto Zenile in the feed from Space Station here, but they are inside the building, so they probably are going to be able to get a quick reset right there. Don't expect CLG to be able to push for free with a lot of the other teams in the area. Here come Optic Gaming, leaving from Big Mod and getting involved in the fight, but this is the risk with so many teams that made that quick rotation into this final circle. This is the risk that Skyward Dive does bring, but they find a nice little area close to the tanks, and they got a boat check and that gold R301 from the Big Mod area to work with.
Surprised that SCN have given up a lot of this space. They were playing pretty wide open, and while Optic Gaming did choose to play this area, I'd say a little bit early, trying to go for on top of the silos, the fact that they're able to get aggressive with the Seer ult is really impressive. Teams not wanting to take any risks early on, but Optic definitely forced into taking one, as these loot pills are not easy to play. You can get shot from above, and with the stairs right below you, third parties are easy to manufacture.
Yeah, so many different angles that teams could contest Optic Gaming in that area. You could also see the skies being congested with the crypto drones. Separate fight happening. Dark Zero with the quick rotation. The Lev's Lava Siphon after taking out TSM out of the lobby. Already trying to contest in No Name to the east side of Fragment East. Furia also in the middle of trying to rotate on the outside north side of the circle. I do like this rotation because they won't be involved in as many congested pinched spots, but Furia also wanted to get involved in a fight with how aggressive they play here too. So just trying to take a more roundabout approach, approaching from the high ground closer to epicenter.
Yeah, I like the way that at least Watson was able to throw out a smoke early on, make this a little bit of a closer range fight, but the rest of the squad not really in position for that yet. So Furia are stymied in their rotation over by Survey Camp, and Sentinels, trying out Slayer for the day, are going to end up likely disengaging a little bit. Slayer actually going to try and get aggressive on the horizon, misses that initial jump, and that might be the signal for Pandas to go ham.
Let's see, he's going to have to scan now after activating Beast of the Hunt. He knows where they're split up a little bit. Actually open ground between that one player below them and the players right on the other side is Watson wants to get into position. Call out the last straggler that ended up being out of position. They get the double crack here with the circle closing in behind their back. Furia now going to be able to get that knock onto Slayer. Is going to try to finish him off, and the quick reset with the two other squad mates on the other side of that open field unable to help.
Really an over-aggressive move from Slayer there, and understandable as this is a trial from Sentinels, but even so, it's going to cost them perhaps this fight, as it would certainly take away the position. Furia confident now that they can take any engagement in front of them, although high ground does have Watson eating a lot of damage. There is able to cover that real nicely, but they need help from Pandas. Still full health, has just climbed up to the high ground, doesn't have as much mobility, and Zera's gone down. Furia maybe losing control of this as Pandas still has yet to get involved. Finally gets a little bit of damage down with that car, but it's an uphill battle as he takes down Crust. It turns into a 2v1 in the favor of Furia, and they should, I say should, be able to clean this up.
Gotta get the last straggler right here before he manages to get away. It's his Watson that's trying to give in some of the suppressed fire. He didn't fully heal with the medkit, but he wants to make sure that Pandas with the gold knockdown shield is able to get Zera right back up with some of that extra health. We see another fight happening in the feed with not getting sent down. We know how open they were over by the Overlook area, and Furia just want to finish up this fight, but with a very strong aggressive start to that fight, they had the advantage off the rip, so it looks a little troublesome for them to finish things off.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got Furia finding a little bit of success around the outside, though, because it will take them, like you said, through the north, the perhaps not as congested area, but one of the most impactful as we get further into this zone. A lot of teams are likely not expecting this ring pull. We saw Guard make a really early rotation as a Crypto squad sitting all the way out on the outside of Overlook, but this next zone is certainly going to surprise a lot of people. Guard, interestingly, not one of them.
No, not at all. They're always so good at calling out these final circle positioning. I honestly, it works so well with their team comp though, with the Crypto, with the Watson, Rambo not being on the Watson anymore and enabling him to get a lot more aggressive with the Valkyrie. It's always nice to see Season now also going to get involved here too. They get the crack, but not trying to overextend here. They're just playing off that area with the stairwell that you actually mentioned, Dia, that leaves that squad in the bottom ground so open to deal with.
Yeah, really problematic, and underneath there's really just not a whole lot you can do. Even this box is a mistake to consider cover. Newcastle providing a little bit of stability, but SZN now get to shift into playing a little bit of an edge style because they know, as well as the rest of the squads, that this next zone pull will leave them outside of the ring. Not a whole lot of other teams are looking to commit onto fights on the low ground like this. Blaine coming down through the stairs. Kenny dipping and diving around this black hole. Finds himself a little bit of cover underneath the gen, but does go down with Klain down as well. It's up to just Hakulo now, and SZN have really lost control of the fight up against Complexity.
Oh, Complexity now just trying to restabilize. They only got syringes to work with. They're playing right next to the gen here at the same time. You see the pings coming in just to see if they can finish that one last player who's trying to crawl away, so that way they can ensure that that's that KP that goes in their favor. The bait, though, as he goes low, incredibly low, he tries to get the hipfire shot on the G7, and Complexity get wiped out. That's 3 squads out of this lobby, with Optic Gaming actually going down in 19th, by the way, because let's not forget that they were on the high ground slightly here before Complexity went out.
Third party alert! It's time for SSG to join the fray, taking out SZN in the immediate aftermath of that fight, but it's a 4th party that shows up immediately afterwards. Oxygen looking for their fair share of the kills. Getting pretty aggressive here. It will be time for them to disengage shortly. Not a whole lot of knocks on the other side, but looking at the kill feed, Guard ended up going out to Luminosity Gaming in the meantime.
Let's not forget, we saw exactly where that fight was going down in No Name to the side of Fragment East, exiting out of the Geyser Vault area. So that's exciting because now Luminosity have that great prediction and rotation. When all this chaos is done in Overlook, they have a nice free rotation into that area to the right side, into that next circle. So Oxygen also on the south side right here, they got the Black Market, they're rocking full purple Evos, and they've also been able to get in touch with some of the third party that's been able to allow themselves to open things up here for the squads fighting below them.
Nice to use the Loba ult to grab the ult excels, make sure that you can rotate into zone Oxygen. A relatively defensively characterized squad is going to have to find some place to set themselves up, and those places are going to start coming at a premium. 15 squads left is still plenty to populate the no-name village that this zone is continually pulling us over to. 100 Thieves going to take their own Valk ult now, and while they do get spotted out, this won't be interrupted. Let's see whether they end up landing well. Xset in a fight up against G2 as they both try and make their exodus from Fragment. G2 actually with a little bit of difficulty pushing right now as Xset do have height. Seems to have come out on the worst end of that trade, while Space Station Gaming are still trying to make their way out. Formerly up against Oxygen, now they're being bullied by CLG.
This is crazy. So many fights happening on opposite ends of the circle. Falls incredibly low at CLG. Want to try to capitalize. They have the health advantage. They get the knock. Get 2 knocks now. Only leaving 1 straggler left here for SSG. Between drops and frags going down. You see that last one being Zen. He just came up. He's got white Evos. Remember, he fell down inside that building to his right where the Watson fences from Frexes were set up. He's playing on top of the tank, but they can't find an angle here. They know he's just got white Evo, but get off my tank. You won't be able to take this from me. I'm a man with a dream, and I have no weapon to even work with here.
All right, here goes Zen. Picks up the Havoc and gets the heck out of dodge. Hasn't actually eaten too much damage just yet, but now is getting angled on from the hill as well, where 100 Thieves were previously sat. There is no safe space to be on Space Station Gaming as they get taken out. CLG's rotation through is free and clear. They've started making theirs as we've got a fuse interrupting someone else. Xset trying to make their way out of Fragment have encountered some serious resistance here.
Oh, and it was Tripods that got pinched in the middle between E8 now and currently Exit. That was unfortunate for Tripods because they wanted to get engaged in that fight. I saw the Fuse ult in the middle, the Mortar Flame coming in as well. So right here, that could be E8 on the other side as Exit are just looking to loot. They're out of their line of sight and they have to start rotating too. They are inside that next ring, but they have the information of where that final circle could be pulling.
Maybe G2 behind them. Smoke just went down and Xset, by clearing out G2, would get rid of a lot of firepower at their back. A little nervous about pushing out of here, though, is right above them. E8 are holding down the line, pinching down on this squad, and with not a whole lot of rotation options, with no Fuse ult, if they haven't gotten an Excel off already, this rotation's going to be tough.
Really interesting for Exet to also call off that fight that they initially had with G2 to just prioritize their rotation. That allowed them to get the extra KP that was Tripods, but now they're playing at a disadvantaged position, playing off the low ground of the bridge to see how they're going to plan that next rotation to avoid getting pinched between G2 and E8, as they are also have been able to make that quick rotation on the other side. Cubs keep falling incredibly low, having to dodge out of that line of sight of the Bloodhound, who wants to try to find out where the rest of E8 is rotating.
On the opposite end of this, we've got the BR Demons wrapping around this pillar. They're looking for a few cheeky knocks. Enemy certainly making use of his talents to wrap around here. Does get swung on, but only by one. Not quite a coordinated push. Reeds is able to take this up. His first knock has gone through, and we should see the start, at the very least, of a full squad wipe. BR Demons are doing this excellently. That was a clinical takedown.
That was beautiful right there. And that was Oxygen, actually, that was playing off the back end with the Loba originally there, too. So they had tried to hold off that position, but beautiful, clean fight from BR Demons. E8 still holding the high ground right here. Didn't get counter-rotated on, and now Exit actually have the rotation advantage over E8, but a little too early maybe here because you're in the line of sight of two other teams.
Out has come that secondary Fuse ult. We'll see if it buys E8 a chance at life. As Xset do have this meager cover to work with, they're actually able to fire down at E8, but not enough meaningful damage coming through just yet. Peppering them here and there. Defensive Bangalore all going to be used to give Xset just these few seconds to reset up on height. Nock still getting shot at, still eating Arc Stars. This is suffering for Xset, but that's a nice nade.
Oh, that was beautiful right there. The Rolling Thunder allowing them to have that space and time to reset. Also, Luminosity has not moved from inside of that building there, too. You can see the EMP coming out from Dark Zero. E8 making the back-south rotation of No Name. They're going to be sharing this building with Dark Zero, but with so many other teams in the area here, this is a nice move. The circle is to their backs right now. They're not worried of getting pinched currently, but they don't have the same safety of the inside of the building like these other teams running the Watson do.
E8 playing, like you say, on their toes here. As anybody taking an off angle on them would make things real difficult. Any spare nades can't be gotten rid of. Fight over by the RV, though, as Furia don't look too happy with G2 coming up on this fight as well. Even the squad that took him out is going to be suffering. G2 have lost design, but it is an easy third party onto Karasuno.
Beautiful here. G2 did lose out on the design like you mentioned right here, and ESA are looking to take advantage, but maybe they could go in for a reset here. ESA getting pinged right behind them. It's 100 Thieves that are looking to capitalize right now. This is what happens when you decide to try to take this fight in the open buildings, but the Watson fences block out Luda, and he still manages to turn around and finish off that squad. G2 out here as Exit are now looking to make their way into this next fight here, being the fourth party.
It's just so delicious to look at all this fighting going on and try and get involved. Xset are easily going to be able to clean up that member of Esports Arena, and while pushing the RV is going to be difficult with the cover fire that 100 Thieves are providing, a lot of death boxes, a lot of confidence out of the recently re-signed Xset as they push up onto this RV and with no trouble at all take out the remainder of Esports Arena.
And they got to get moving quickly here, too. They don't have a Watson on their team. They don't have the Gen to immediately negate any of the grenade damage that could come in there and just bombard men. And E8 now forced to rotate outside the safety of the back of the building are also getting taken down because they're in the beautiful line of sight of Luminosity Gaming that have taken up this building from the very beginning. We saw them be the thorn to the side for the guard. They're the only team right now rocking the Gibby, so they also won't have issue going out into the open field once the circle gets even smaller.
So powerful is the Gibraltar, especially when it is the only one in the lobby. Being able to look at a space and say, this is mine, and no one else is touching it. Luminosity making use of that, at least for right now, getting a little bit of cover from this low ground and isolating themselves up on height. That is an incredible amount of damage out of Yanya, but not something that Luminosity can really push right now. Their objective has to be simply to survive, to keep squads off their back, and to shepherd them into each other.
Yeah, and to share some of the loot here too, since they've been inside this building for so long and they're not the ones rocking a Loba, they've been denied the opportunity to get the loot necessary other than utilizing the death boxes to their feet that they've been able to take. Dark Zero having to play from underneath the same building, but wasting no time to set up the perimeter with the Watson fences.
Yeah, this is a reasonable spot to play. Dark Zero do have plenty of safety here. The real question is going to be who has to move first. As out of this building, Dark Zero will have the opportunity to kill or be killed by Luminosity from the inside. That's the real risk here. Along the outside of one of the last remaining buildings, though, CLG are playing with almost literal fire and eating shots from below, sky nades from above. It doesn't look like fun.
Can we talk about Nano's 30-30 shots? He has been griefing different individual members of these teams from inside the buildings, from the outside. Dark Zero, Jen falling incredibly low, having to pop either Phoenix, that shield bat actually activating right here, but playing off the bottom side of this building also means that they don't have a seer. They don't know where the teams could be rotating from behind them, and with the black hole now coming out, they have to look for the other squads. That got deleted immediately. They think they see that there's a rat on the other side, but they don't have confirmation just yet. They ping it, but they can't try to fully push or else they'll be put in the line of sight of 100 Thieves on the other building.
Yeah, you have to look for where that horizon ult came from, because that squad is your biggest threat, the one that's looking for aggression on you. Xset getting pretty darn aggressive themselves. Do throw out that smoke just to make sure they stay safe from any return fire at 100 Thieves, as Onmu commits onto the low underneath this building to try and stay alive. Luminosity Gaming, otherwise occupied, are trying to harass out Dark Zero from right below them, and it seems to be working. Knock onto Backslon from Xset on the opposite side of this fence line, and with our top 4 squads, it is so important that LG take out Dark Zero below them or vice versa. These squads want to be the last ones remaining on the inside of this fence line, because otherwise, Xset, they rule everything. Along the outside of this fence, they are kings.
Yep, this is the best position you go hold right now, but the beam coming in with the car from Fun. He unloads an entire clip, knocking Jen, and they have the outside of the cargo boxes right here to also work with for extra cover. They have no squads behind them. They have nothing to worry about. But like you mentioned before, Luminosity has to worry about it. Here comes a bombardment coming down from the Gibby. Being the only Gibby on the team means that they don't have a dome to protect themselves.
This is a really nice opener. It allows Luminosity the chance to reset. Can Xset actually take advantage of it, though? Out goes that bubble as 100 Thieves go down. Again, isolating a fight. It's down to the top 2 squads. Xset still kings to the outside, and soon Luminosity are forced to vacate. They have no bubble anymore. They have no safety. They are right into the chompers of Xset, and with Fun and Sykes still watching this fence line, it is an easy win for our first day of having Xset back in Apex Legends.
Welcome back, Xset. We missed you guys, and with a wonderful roster to your name, you guys take game number 1 here in the Oversight Week 4 Friday Finals.
What a good way of controlling that outside as well. I mean, we talked about the talent on Xset so often when they were back under the Team Liquid name, but seeing them with such renewed confidence on today, with such good moves in a circle that you know as well as I, Vicky, is very difficult to play. Controlling around the outside, claimed so many squads, from Esports Arena to Furia to Karasuno. So many people died just trying to hold the very ephemeral outside of this fence line.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about where the circle was pulling for a lot of the teams that aren't running the crypto, who don't have access to a beacon, or were only able to scan the first 2 beacons after the first 2 circles closed. You could see that this circle could have pulled either to the slightly north of the island of where Overlook is, maybe to the left side on the mouth tunnel of exiting out of the tunnel of Geyser, and then pulling all the way to No Name means that all the squads that had to exit out of Overlook, yeah, they had the slight high ground, but you know that the contention with so many teams that made the early rotate there, it was going to be a bloodbath. So let's not forget that it was Luminosity and the Guard that were one of the first 2 teams to make their way into No Name, so that way they won't get contested or pinched by the other squads that have rotated early into Overlook.
I really liked the way that they played, especially Luminosity, inside of that building, you could tell that they were doing a really good job actually of using the Gibraltar bubble to go out, pick up a little bit of cursory loot, because when you do play zone, you do tend to run out of meds, ammunition, and one of the two as the game goes on. But as so many squads started falling in their vicinity, that little bit of extra safety really helped them out, and ultimately it was good control up until that end game where they still, after getting second place, you can say had a very, very good game.
Yeah, absolutely. They did call out that bombardment to contest exit, but there was still a team playing underneath them. So they still had to finish skirmishing with another team before jumping over the fence into the beautiful line of sight of exit, who not only won that game, but won with 10 kills to their name. So they finished with double-digit KP, so they were cleaning up, leaving that fragment area with all the other squads that were trying to rotate there.
That's a pristine start for Xset. Luminosity, of course, right behind them, with 100 Thieves clinching that third place, despite being under pressure from not just Xset, but also Luminosity on the inside. There were a lot of squads looking at 100 Thieves, but their kills really helped them out in that department, making sure that they end up moving up to third place confidently with the placement points that they accrued. Dark Zero, who eliminated TSM as the very first squad to be taken out tonight, deservedly get themselves a fourth place spot, but I'm really going to be looking towards Lava Siphon next game. We're going to take a very short break as we've got just a few minutes before we pop into game 2. We get to see that rematch between Dark Zero and TSM. I said it was a short break, didn't I? We're already back. It's Vicky and Dia ready to bring you game 2. As we've already seen Xset walk away with game 1, we had, I think, a pretty stereotypical game 1. A nice start for some squads, nothing crazy, right? 22 points, far from the most dominant lead that we've ever seen. It's a good place for everyone to start. Everyone that is, except for, like we said, TSM.
Yeah, TSM going down first. I mean, after having such an amazing day at the LGS Day 9 showcase yesterday, being the first team to go down, feel like is like a TSM like favorite out here. They just end up going back and forth like that. Optic Gaming though going down to 19, also something else that wasn't really the usual that I'm used to seeing, especially when it comes to a circle that ends up being in that overlook area that allows them to kind of get that free rotate outside of Big Bot if they take that skyward dive.
Yeah, it's interesting to recognize sort of how those kills on Optic Gaming came about as well, because this is a squad that has chosen, at least for today, to play very aggressively in zone. And it's an interesting adaptation, especially when we consider the context that Optic Gaming are playing in. Like you talk about, on Sunday, it's their last chance to qualify for ALGS playoffs. They're struggling to stay in contention for playoffs here at Oversight. And while it's a historically very strong team, this season in particular has given them a little bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah, I think the meta it does not work in favor for them. They tried out a lot of different things. I spoke to Duplex actually before their Day 8 performance, where they were very confident in just running what they feel more comfortable with. In an interview with, I believe it was Nizul in Luminosity Gaming, they even explained to us how they feel that right now playing where you feel more comfortable, even the legends that aren't meta right now, will work better for the team than otherwise. So it's interesting to hear that insight from Luminosity, and then hearing from from Dupe talk about how they wanted to rock the Caustic, the Gibby back on World's Edge, and then now changing their plan back to still rocking the Seer, the Valkyrie, and the Horizon, because they've been changing things up so much to see what actually works out for them, whether they feel comfortable playing on the edge or for final circle positioning. That's where they found the most success when Valkyrie first appeared in the meta, where they were able to get that God spot first before any other team, but it's not working out for them when they play more like the other edge squads like Furia.
Yeah, it takes a lot of, I would say, really high level game understanding and control, I dare say even coaching, to take your style, that style that you're comfortable with, like you were saying Luminosity had mentioned, and then enforce it on the rest of the lobby. Luminosity, of course, did that really well last game, but when everyone else in the lobby is looking for aggressive fights with the Seer Horizon combo, or is playing really defensively with this Watson, it becomes quite hard to see everyone else doing that and not do the same thing, and to instead sit back and say, well, how can I make them play my game instead? Because if you're trying to play aggressive with Caustic Gibraltar, it just isn't going to work.
It would play more into their old playstyle of just holding that final circle positioning there too, which is why it was interesting to see them take that early Skyward dive, but they were put in such a pinch situation and Overlook. As we see this next circle for game number 2 is going to be taking us to the south. This actually benefits the like of Dark Zero and TSM, but after that 50-50 in the first game, you know that TSM isn't going to be calling it quits here. They're going to be taking a different rotation to still try to bring in this approach, and you could also see already Dark Zero taking onto the high crown. Zero isn't going to just let them get that middle loot for free, and he's got the charge rifle in his hand, and I do believe the purple sniper stock is in the replicator if they do manage to get their hands on that.
If you guys have ever watched Hal's stream, you know he's not picking up a longbow or this early into the game unless he is furious. And TSM are furious. Sniping back at a charge rifle team, they've already got the controller demon himself, Verhulst, on the flank, ready to get aggressive. And actually, this was something that Verhulst was mentioning just yesterday about the way that TSM has adapted and how it's actually allowed him with this new iteration, when they've picked up a coach and gotten a little bit more comfortable with their playstyle and understanding the macro, to get aggressive on his own, to take matters into his own hands. And that's exactly what Verhulst is doing right now.
I love how you highlighted that too. Verhulst also a very confident player currently right now. Let's jump into a quick listening to see how TSM play this fight here.
80, 30 plus on Bangalore. Popping on the cell. Shooting up under the roof.
On the door on the left.
I'm on the roof. I'm on the roof. I'm on the get behind the door.
Yeah.
They're trying. Show me. Show me. Show me.
Going down.
One dead. One dead.
Nice.
One shot Bangalore. One shot Bangalore.
Buck it up.
Bottom four. Bottom four. Play together. Play together. At the heel.
Behind you. Behind you.
He's playing knock. He's playing knock. One guy's playing knock. Hold on. Don't push.
Bang dead. Bang dead. He's on me in the knock.
Cracks. Cracks.
Nice. Good job.
Nice.
Taking matters into their own hands. TSM reassert their dominance over Lava Siphon in game 2 of the day. Make no mistake though, Vicky, they've got a long way to go after this. TSM, I think somebody was mentioning recently, anything short of victory for them does tend to feel like they're left wanting a whole lot more. The squad has a big history to live up to, and so I like the way that they've started game 2. Given how they began game 1, the fight is far from done.
Especially after the performance in the ALGS. I mean, they are literally the #1 team in NA for a reason, and anything short of that, especially to a team like Dark Zero, who can't say the same out here, and catching them off guard, you could already see how Hal at the end of that fight was very excited. Gar currently going to take a skyward dive after seeing that there was a team on high ground there. They have the information onto them with that Seer Tactical getting released. And with the Southern Circle, a lot of other teams like Tripods G2 are getting involved over here by Thermal Station.
I don't like the spot of G2, having already lost 1 to the knock. They've got Deeds and Gent pushing up on him. Nick Merckx giving data, making calls from the back. It's a nice bit of height that they've gotten. This scaffolding decent to play for the end game. Something tells me, though, that Tripods aren't really looking for an end game position right now. Despite the fact that they're in zone, they seem to be looking a lot more for edge fights with a few teams that are making their way into these corners.
Yeah, to safely actually cut off a lot of other squads. As you can see, Sentinel's actually in a lot of trouble. Sennox just literally living off of a sliver of health, and it's against the PR Demons underneath Epicenter currently, getting out of the way of that grenade. Enemy trying to restabilize with a shield bat. Sentinels get finally wiped out here with an intense fight playing off of that low ground. But it looked troublesome there for the BR Demons to make sure that they can help restabilize after that fight.
It's a pretty good finish for them, and the quick restabilization, as you talked about, will allow them to rotate into this very far south zone with a little bit more hustle under their steps. I like the starting spot of Epicenter, but it does present a lot of challenges when needing to move into a spot where evidently people are expecting this to go tree or thermal, like that far south, which is very difficult to play. G2 managing to recover after their fight with tripods, have escaped and gotten the res on Chaotic.
I'm surprised there wasn't a squad that rotated there off the rip, leaving out of staging to that north side, especially seeing the southern circle. Furia making their rotation outside of Countdown now, finding the B-Mitch with the wingman, finding it too, finds the Naka to Anu and the follow from his Watson to get Scurry down. That's 100 Thieves in a lot of trouble with your team that managed to get second place, rather third place, and are game number 1.
I mean, we talk about macro so much in Apex Legends, but when you see Panders just click like that, you wonder how anyone can win against it. When it's literally the aim that is separating Furia right now in that successful fight. It was a great opener with the Bang ult to make sure they had the space to move up, and now TSM getting aggressive again in Lava Siphon. Could be going down. It's Oxygen that they're up against, but just in the nick of time, Burholst again manages to open things up for TSM. Starting them off on the right foot. It's the aggression that we talked about from him earlier that's really making the difference right now.
Let me in. He forces a way through the door, and Reps also cleaning up 2 members of Oxygen on the backside. So a nice split push from both Burholst and Reps to get Hal right back up as the entry fragger, who likes to get way more aggressive to open things up for the team here. A lot of other teams, though, taking a much more passive approach, not taking these fights here on the edge, as we get a nice slow-mo of the Panders wingman shots. 1-2, and you're done for here at the very end. Onmu tried to get away, so did Scurry. Neither of those 2 teammates from 100 Thieves had nowhere to go when you're in the line of sight of Furia. But Space Station with their team comp, this works perfectly into their end game goal. Watson with Crypto, they're going to be able to be safely inside of that building with the Watson fences. Karasuno can't say the same, though, because they're playing on the outside of the building instead, sharing that building.
They've been forced out by Space Station on the inside as well, with Complexity right above them and Guard sitting just a few meters away. I'm not too envious of Karasuno's spot. Fortunately for them, the zone isn't going to evict them just yet. We've got 2 zones before they eventually have to move, as this looks like it's pulling a little bit further north into the likes of Thermal Station.
Seeing that there is that beacon off to the side is going to allow tripods to have that circle advantage. Guard playing inside, though. You can see the gravity lift all the way up from E8, having to play on the outside of that circle. But with E8 having that mortar flame out, they can't push outside that building. Another team actually cleaning them up. 100 Thieves get taken out, and so does E8.
That was a nice cleanup from Guard, being able to ironically use the nades around the outside of the building to take out our only fuse squad of the day. I do like that E8 are trying new things as well. They are one of our teams that is already set, at the very least, in ALGS, not to qualify for playoffs, but they still have the opportunity to do so here in Oversight. And I like that, knowing that at least their strategy for Split 1 of the ALGS isn't working, they're giving this a shot, trying some new things, so that they can find some success here.
Yeah, I like how you highlighted that. In the qualifiers, they actually got 6, and they really did have pop-off performances on Stormpoint. So you got to ramp things up, especially if you're trying new things, like utilizing the fuse out here as Xset in the middle of their rotation now. They're going to be able to be on that choke point closer to Harvester. This is exactly the same spot that we saw Furia in that fight to the south of staging. So many other teams have made their way over to Lava Siphon. I see ESA on the other side by the train tracks looking at all the chaos go down, as Optic Gaming are on top of the building that TSM were fighting in. Here comes Skittlecakes now opening things up, breaking down the doors with the black hole, and now trying to take a different angle.
Ooh, very aggressive. 25, not a whole lot of damage, but still a good opener for having not even fired a bullet yet. Optic following that up with a nice little bit of pepper damage as well. Are struggling to actually unseat TSM, but have caused some havoc. Hal eats a lot of damage going back up to the height, and Optic Gaming are still looking for angles that are becoming even more available as they shepherd everyone onto the second floor. Skittlecakes has a good angle on this horizon, gets immediately chowed by Hal and whips out the charged rifle. rifle to try and finish him off. Duplex goes low as well, and there haven't been knocks on either side. Everyone falling incredibly low as Hal's charge rifle finds the knock this time, and Skittlecakes goes down, beginning the end of Optic as they lose Dupe as well. It's got to be Knock that clutches this up. He finds the first knock onto Hal, lays down some good damage on the low ground, but it's Reps and Verholst that are left alive that could still take this back. Reps is down, and it's just a 1v1. Our two Valkyries, Verholst and Nox, going up against each other. Verholst goes down. Reps comes up behind him, but doesn't find the kill. Optic clutch this up just in the nick of time.
He was playing sneaky right behind the other side there. Nox clutching that out was huge. He knew that he had the health advantage when he got the double crack already. There was not enough time to pop the shield bat if you saw he was going to get aggressive there. Amazing performance for Optic Gaming to come out on top as TSM fall in 15th. Exit may be joining them in the lobby, though, after losing out on Sykes. It's the BR Demons that are actually making their appearance on the south side here. This is what we were talking about. So many fighting happening on the south side of the staging allows these teams to leave that choke point into the north side of Thermal Station, away from a lot of the chaos that's going to be happening closer to the tree area in that rotation from the south side.
Especially for teams like Exet that rotate from so far north, it's very punishing to make their way in like this. I would say, fortunately, G2's coming to help them out. Here in a few shots, they got aggressive, and they're not the only ones. Optic, after finding their own fight onto TSM, are now getting hard gate-capped by SZN, and it's part of the natural risk of this fight of trying to play the edge of zone. Optic continuing to experiment with their playstyle, as you illustrated earlier, and SZN trying to make the safest play possible. He still can't tank this zone, so Optic have got plenty of time, plenty of meds to pull off of the TSM bodies before they make their way in, and everyone's going to play their own game. CLG now in the position to gatekeep SZN.
Yeah, there's so many loot boxes there too that Optic Gaming could take advantage of. Aside from TSM's death boxes, you also got Oxygens that TSM had beaten earlier, so they got all the meds to work with to take their time into rotating. It's also Ring 2, so not too worrisome. Exit want to get involved here as they're backing up just a little bit to see what the action's looking like. They don't want to get pinched between both these teams. As BR Demons notice, there is that other squad on the other side of the train tracks closer to the staging area. They have the information from the Bloodhound scan and the footsteps that they're going to be able to pick up, but they don't have that IRL information, that concept of information that the heartbeat sensor of the Seer does provide.
Yeah, I'm really worried for BR Demons because everybody looking down through that train element, no one was watching their backs, and G2 have come up behind them. Good shots from Aiden to start off the fight. Does mean that BR Demons get the opportunity to play things slow, reset. 1 minute left until ring closes. Plenty of time to clinch up a 3v3, but Aiden's caught with no cover, having to pop behind this rock, hit the shield bat as well. Means one member's out of commission temporarily. Reeds get shredded, and we are just cycling people right now. BR Demons not able to fight as 3. Out goes the Horizon ult answer right back by that, plus a thermite on the side of G2, and as Aiden burns, resetting again, Reeds is going to get fried. It is this constant cycle from G2, keeping the members of BR Demons down until they can close the gap. Chaotic pushes up, gets taken down. It's 2 out from G2 as BR Demons are holding on right now, and an Arcstar makes it a quick 3. Nice turnaround from BR Demons as a third party is coming in, and Aiden's got a ditch down onto the low ground.
Aiden's got to sacrifice, Reeds an enemy in the process. I was going to talk about how beautiful that G2 Bangalore smoke looked for them in the middle to closing that gap to actually get out of that line of sight and take a much aggressive approach. But there was a blood on the other side from BR Demons there too. Now Furia making their appearance in that third party. Last striker of Aiden is trying to get away, and Optic Gaming are trying to close in. Hakulo gets taken down, and Optic Gaming are feeling themselves after taking out TSM.
Not even close at the very end of that fight. SZN, well, remember, giving Optic a lifeline earlier, and oh no, this is not looking good. Aiden comes around the corner, sees that, nope, so right on out of there. Complexity making their own moves inside this zone, have chosen to Valk ult into a pretty risky position. Down here on the low ground, it's still very early to take a spot like this, and they're eating shots from above. Newcastle Wall going to save them just a bit of damage, but I mean that just a bit, as Luxford is still eating a lot of DPS, and there's not a whole lot of safe places, especially once this mobile shield expires.
Yeah, they actually really wanted the high ground of that area that exits out of staging in that north side of Thermal Station. You could see when they had to just alley-oop away from there on the skyward dive, turn around, take that low ground position. We have seen the circle pull on the outside through the gondolas on the other side of where they're positioned, but at least they have the Newcastle, so they could set up underneath in the meantime right now. It's Furia. that have a great spot, but the circle isn't pulling there, and it's going to be pulling closer to where Complexity is, and that means that the guard is going to have a nice high ground point of view of the other squads that are going to be forced to jump out of Thermal Station to exit out and funnel into their line of sight.
I'm expecting a lot of Valkults here, and we've already got our first one, SSG, trying to make their way into Thermal Station. You do have this scaffolding that is still left in play, but like you talked about, it's in the LOS of Guard, and they may not have called that quite early enough. One's been knocked, make it two as Brex is down, and Complexity could very well take advantage of this. Out go the Thermites. Tripods firing from the center are keeping Xset at bay, and Nocturnal will be able to make a very quick heal before ultimately perhaps pushing in. They've got the smokes to make this work if they think they can. Scan right back, though, probably stops it.
Let's talk about Tripods on the left side. We know that the guard's on the right side. Looks like there's another team right next to the guard, so they could distract them here. Exit playing on the back end. Optic with just Duplex was trying to hide right behind that death box real quick. They lose out on sights, and currently Exit are playing this out as a duo. Nowhere to really get the res unless you have a respawn beacon to put down that's on the ground right now. It's not in the replicator, so they can work off of that if they have that additional loot. But not just going to be able to utilize these death boxes in the meantime.
I really like the position of our Game 1 winners. Xset still managing to hold on to this first place, but with Guard looking at them, and I believe Luminosity rotating around real soon. We've got to keep our eyes on how they adapt to the changing times. We know Luminosity have that beacon building, the donut just out to the western side of Thermal, and they'll be able to make their moves in as Xset try and deal with what could just be a solo around the outside of this. We got another fight breaking out, though. Complexity getting ulted right on top of their Newcastle wall, eat a lot of damage, but haven't been knocked yet. Guard have taken a fight with CLG meanwhile, and Keon has already found a knock and a thirst. Shiny goes down as well. Esports Arena trying to juggle a lot up on the height right now. Have knocked one member of Complexity now, and should be able to jump down, but now start eating shots from Tripods. That is the chaos of this fight, Vicky. We knew it from the start. Tripods have such a good angle on everything else that happens that this might just be the end of ESA.
And they called it from the very beginning here, too. Now only leaving up to Luda. The Missile Storm isn't going to get that final knock. Fury's still playing on the outside to try to contest what is left of Complexity. And ESA get taken out first. Fury now looking to make Complexity next in the lobby. But Tripods are being a thorn to their side. The Arcs are at the feet of Panders. He tries to hide behind the death boxes, but it's not going to be enough cover.
There's just no real safe place to be right now. Zera may be able to get this. Rez could still be shot through the fences, though. Watson healing up on the low ground, and we've still got one last member of Complexity in here. Luxford trying to outlast Furia right now. Could still do it, as so much of Tripod's attention is on Furia. Complexity do ultimately get taken out, though. Unfortunately for them, it is Guard that end up shuffling them right on out of game number 2. And Tripod still running this lobby, have an amazing position up on height that they will have to drop from next ring.
6 squads left in the lobby right now. Furia playing this out as a duo. Luminosity, the Guard, Tripods, Xset also playing things out right now as a duo, as well as Karasuno. Let's see which of these mobile respawn beacons could be used. I saw it just get set down right in front of Tripods. And there's another team also playing underneath the space that Tripods is sharing in. But sooner or later here, Dia, they're going to have to funnel outside here into that next circle.
Guard and Tripods are just abusing Furia on this low ground. It does not look fun at all as the longbows and G7 scouts rain in around you. Now the ring's closing, though. Guard's gonna have to think about where they're relocating. They should not have height advantage anymore, and Tripods scout out their rotation down onto the low ground. Great use of the exhibit to do so, but an EMP right back will take away that temporary advantage in the vision. They make the full push onto Furia. Should be able to do this, but they've lost 2. There is no way that Furia clutches this up. Watson and Zera still both alive. Take out 2 members of Tripods, make it a third, and outlast, outman, and outplay.
No way, after they get Toba, they drop down. They were worried about the squad behind them, but like you saw right there, the EMP deleting their sight advantage, deleting the constant flow of information. Huge nades now popping one by one. They go. The Guard that made the rotation from the high ground have now found a great place here. They're still getting cracks.
Guard actually should just be able to take out the remainder of Luminosity here. Place that thermite perfectly. You do it, Keon. Gets that burn! Look at him go! Niesel gets taken down, and another burn, another knock, another kill. Luminosity are out, Karasuno are down, and we're to the top 3 as Guard are running this lobby.
They are literally rearing. They not only cleared the south side of this circle, but if Furia could get... Okay, they get caught out immediately. It's Exit who's also playing this as a duel. Probably saw that mobile respawn. Like, is this our time? Is this our chance? Can we get our third in here too? Furia said, no, we're getting shot at you guys too. We're not going to let you guys get that mobile respawn for free. Let's not forget that Sykes is out of here and so is Panders. So that mobile respawn with the death box right there could allow a lot of these teams to have an advantage again.
Oh no, Zara keeps popping out onto that Moby. Ultimately, out
they're
comes
bringing him
the
in.
ult to try and get Panders back. They're fully resetting this. Nobody's shooting at Zara anymore. In's coming Panders. We're going to have 2 full squads in the end game here. And if Xset want a shot at second, it's time to make their move now.
This is huge right now. Respawn ship coming in, allowing Panders to drop down. He's got the Bangalore smoke to get out of line of sight for some of these teams. The Guard want in on the action. They get the crack, but he's got the death box right there for the reset.
I'm so shocked that nobody's playing around the outside right now. It's just a lot of restraint from especially the Guard up on this height as they're playing to win the game at this point, not for the kills that they can find on the low ground. It is going to be a lot harder now, though, as Furia do have the chance to adequately fight back. They had a death box right next to them. Still plenty of meds. The real disadvantage here is going to be that zone that should push Furia out of cover before it pushes the Guard out of height.
Yeah, with Exit being right underneath the Guard, that means that the Guard aren't going to be able to push in. Furia are trying to play this for even a second place attempt right now. They're just going to grief Exit at this point.
Zara's down, but Furia could still find second place. They get knocked. Xset trying to make it work. Might just take down his Watson, but Xset do go down first, and Watson knows what's up. He knows the Guard are winning game number 2, and he sends himself to the fire and flames.
That's why they called it. That's why they called it to fully send it onto Exit. Any additional KP for Furia counts here, and it's the Guard who had the game-winning position to take game number 2.
A well-played, I think, final zone from everyone. Xset naturally couldn't make a move. Furia naturally had to make their move, and Guard, as that consequence, do ultimately end up winning the game. It looked good, it looked clean, but the rest of the game wasn't quite that cut and dry, Vicky. We had a lot of very scrappy fights around the side.
Oh, absolutely, especially on that north side, too. Love those shots coming in from Panders, but I also have to highlight, we saw Rambo lighting up the feed. Can't wait to see how much KP they finish at the end of that W, because that's probably another a double KP finish for a winning team.
Now, I gotta call out RKN as well, really putting in work with the longbow during that entire game, ended up participating in a lot of kills onto Complexity on the low ground, and ultimately making Furia's life that much more difficult, as they were in the exact same position. It was Tripods, though, that really surprised me with their attempted push onto the low ground that just didn't work out.
Yeah, they knew that there was a team underneath them. They didn't have the information as to whether that team was going to push, which is why they wanted to use the exhibit from the Seer ult. And then, of course, the EMP just stopped them short. And then Furia still coming out on top. They did lose Panders in that fight, but then at the same time as Watson, even after they got their third back into the game, knew that they just wanted to play for second place at that point. A good call to at least get the KP that they need and to at least get the placement point for second. But the Guard had all the free rotation, leaving the south side by the tree, cleaned up what, 3-4 squads that we saw stationed up there, and then made their way past the lava into that high ground over the other two teams.
Yeah, just by being in such a tight area, the Guard had this sort of cover of safety throughout that entire mid-game. We saw, I believe it was E8 try and push up on them, and I was really surprised by the way that that worked out, because E8 very well could have played the outside of the building in most situations, but the Guard knew that with Complexity, SSG, and Karasuno right next door, nobody's gonna third-party that, not if they want to live, and that's what ends up making Game 2 so special. The Guard finished first place, 25 points, 13 kills, but Furia are not that far behind them.
No, not at all here. 12 kills to their name out here too, and with that rotation that they make out exiting out of Countdown, they were able to wrap around, contest all the other squads, leaving Harvester, leaving the staging area. They were able to take that fight that we saw earlier onto the train track to exit, also with another top 3 finish out here with 3 KP.
Xset looking really good so far. Game 1, not just a fluke. We get to see this momentum carry over for them. The BR Demons coming up right behind them. We talked about at the start, they do have a lot to prove and have one more opportunity to do it if World's Edge is the map that they are looking at. Before we pop into that last game of World's Edge, we are going to take a very short break, so Vicky and I will see you in a few. The real disadvantage here is going to be that zone that should push Furia out of cover before it pushes the guard out of pipe.
Yeah, with Xset being right underneath the guard, that means that the guard aren't going to be able to push in. Furia are trying to play this for even a second place attempt right now. They're just going to grief Xset at this point.
Sarah's down, but Furia could still find second place. They get knocked. Xset trying to make it work. Might just take down his Watson, but Xset do go down first, and Watson knows what's up. He knows the guard are winning game number 2, and he sends himself to the fire and flames.
That's why they call it. That's why they called it to fully send it onto Xset. Any additional KP for Furia counts here, and it's the guard.
We're down 2 games and almost into our third here at Oversight. We've got that last game on World's Edge coming up for you, but before we jump into it, I want to take a look at the overall scoreboards to check in with how especially Xset, after their fabulous first 2 game performances, are at.
Yeah, they took game number 1 with 10 KP to their name, and they still got third place game number 2, with game number 2 with 3 KP, so they're still sitting in first place right now. Total of 32 points, a nice gap between themselves and Furia and the guard, who are currently tied right now for second.
I'm really happy with the way Furia ended that game as well. Really good calls from them. I want to re-emphasize it. It's a very clean end game that we get from these 3 top-tier squads. But with Luminosity sitting right behind them, Furia and the guard cannot be sitting comfortably because Luminosity didn't make it as far in this game as they did last. His first game was second place, but a 5th place finish still puts them far and away ahead of the rest of the lobby. BR Demons and 100 Thieves right behind them.
Also nice to know some of the little highlights that I really like from my game too. Man, Noct went crazy versus that TSM fight. I'm still not over it. That was still very impressive. Of course, the third party was trying to roll in, and then they rolled the third party attempt right afterwards. That was going to be SZN that tried to get involved originally. As we tune into TSM, where they're going to be landing, we always know it's always going to be that lava siphon area that they're going to be sharing with Dark Zero if they decide to contest them again. But we saw what happened off the rip in that 50-50 fight where TSM got their revenge against Dark Zero after the performance in game 1.
I will say that at least both teams have 3 points, right? That's the good news story, is that they're not coming up empty-handed, but somebody's going to come away from World's Edge with at least 6, and that's what we're fighting for right now. TSM actually also picking up oxygen last game as they were trying to make their way into Lava Siphon, and that was an interesting rotation from the squad that I didn't expect to be holding Lava Siphon. In fact, I didn't expect TSM or Optic to be fighting there either. It became this traffic jam for squads that I'd stereotypically consider ones that prioritize zone a little more.
Yeah, it could also be for the fight for the beacon that is usually in that middle building of Lava Siphon, and then take a southern rotation through the tree area into where there's sometimes a beacon where it actually is where Design is currently stationed up right now for that beacon control. The tree squad is also going to be able to get that same set of information with the crypto drone without putting themselves in a risky position, so it's basically going to be shared between G2 and that squad over on the other side. And looking at another southern circle, this is also going to benefit TSM and Dark Zero. Very similarly to what I was mentioning before, where it pulled more so towards thermal, they basically get to stay posted up here and they could just harvest that beacon in the middle of Lava Siphon.
That's the dream, right? For both these squads. Dark Zero, evidently, taking that quick balloon out of here, though. They don't want to risk another 0-point game this time around and are going to continue splitting loot with TSM up to the north. We've got to keep in mind that it is likely that TSM already have this beacon scan, so clearing out the rest of Zone 2 and being able to pick their spot at leisure is a good move for them, but pressuring Dark Zero is also only going to benefit as TSM can really play out of anywhere in Lava Siphon. We're even looking at Luminosity all the way down to the south, and Launch Site might be a real good place to play later.
Are they gonna chase them?
Oh
okay. I was gonna say, I mean, they know where the circle is pulling. They're trying to take an outer rotation.
They're wrapping around on it?
Did they see the third party already potential coming in on the other side of Dark Zero after taking that jump tower just to get involved and to teach Dark Zero a lesson?
They just might. Dark Zero are already hoofing it back to safety. As up on this height, they do have a good amount of cover, but you have to imagine that's the only explanation for the TSM rotate out towards Geyser, because otherwise, why are you ever going Geyser in that situation? Just to apply more pressure to Dark Zero seems like it could very well work as well, since this choke point is already fraught with peril.
Al said he's angry. He's ready to get whatever revenge it was after that first game right now. I want to see how they play this smartly here too, because even though this is complexity on this other side, they don't have that information that TSM is literally hiding on the other side of the rock. This may just be free pickings for TSM to find complexity up front. They don't have a seer. They don't have a scan. So TSM are just going to capitalize, feast on them like it's a late Thanksgiving feast.
That is just dirty. TSM taking no prisoners, as now they've finally got that fight up against Dark Zero should they choose to take it. The cleanup on 2 members of Complexity feels really nice for them, and it looks like Dark Zero are trying to rotate down into Fragment as well. I wouldn't be surprised if TSM go try and take as much space as possible right now.
Yeah, Dark Zero, they have the crypto for information, but with reps being on the seer, they knew exactly where the other squads were rotating from. ESA now getting involved. They heard whip of the fight going down, and now with Phony losing on his shield, it's only up to Capra that's fully up and alive here and healthy to contest in this fight.
Ooh. Flesh getting found, though. Sharky's down to TSM.
No
Dark
way.
Zero are out, and Esports Arena get away with only 1 being knocked. That's likely going to be a sacrifice to TSM, as they're still running around the Fragment area. But let's not forget that Fragment was once TSM Kingdom, so it's nice that they're able to come back and find some nice success.
TSM got their revenge again here on Dark Zero. They are out in 19th, sorry, here. And to see that go down again, very unfortunate, but fortunate for TSM to clean up early KP, but maybe a little too early to rotate and take this risk with the squad appearing to their backside.
Oh god. That nade had me sweating! TSM are far from safe. They don't have that many meds being able to pick up what was off of 2 relatively unlooted squads, but a good bit of damage from reps may just open the team up to be able to retake this height, get out of this pinch in time. It looks like it's going to work. TSM are making an almost successful retreat. Verholst has been knocked fully thirsted. You grab that banner and you get out of there.
Yeah, that's Oxygen who made the rotation away from Geyser to get involved in the fight. They heard the early fighting like ESA did, and they just wanted to get involved as quickly as possible, but TSM still got what they wanted at the end of the day, Dia, and it's gotta be Dark Zero out first in this lobby here, as they're going to be able to get Burrows right back in. They're going to be able to rotate right to the safety of Lava Siphon. We can expect other teams to have already made the rotations there too, being that there is a beacon there. And with where that circle is going to be pulling, we've seen the circle before. It sometimes pulls in that open area between the northern side of Launch Site and Lava Siphon. And if that is going to be the right call, that means that TSM could take that building on the north side of Launch Site safely.
Should be able to, as Sentinel's going to struggle a little bit more with their own rotation. We know Esports Arena right ahead of them, and Oxygen still hold height for the moment. It's worth noting as well, Oxygen making their first appearance in the finals this split of Oversight, so a warm welcome to them, as, well, their game 2 didn't exactly go the way that they were hoping for. They've actually been playing really well.
Yeah, getting involved in a lot of these fights here too. They've been able to come on top in having the advantage. Want to see more here as we take a look at Sentinels currently taking a disengagement on that fight. They just want to be able to try to counter-rotate for the squads that do have that skyward dive, something that they don't here. Only have that horizon for that mobility. And Senox actually calling where they're going to be landing in the construction building site could actually spell doom for them because they are going to get contested out in the open field here of Fragment. You see Senox falling incredibly low. He manages to get away and add in the smoke to make sure that they have extra cover, but they're going to have to take a longer rotation probably into that circle so that way they can safely get past through the railroad tracks that ESA is trying to gatekeep them from.
All that damage is so problematic, and it's not just ESA that's gatekeeping them anymore. The BR Demons have managed to claim the building in Fragment that's right next to Beacon. So a little bit of extra information potentially coming for them, as taking a look at the map, TSM are also continuing to play edge. It wasn't just an odd game from them last time around. TSM, they're giving us a taste of a different playstyle. Their rotation out of Lava Siphon and into Geyser absolutely plays into what looks like an emerging playstyle for the squad.
They said they fell down a little too early in that game one. I say little, but I mean, that was the first squad to go down, and they need to make up for that lackluster game. They want to be able to get more KP, and even if it comes to risking getting circle kept, exiting out of this choke point that leads back into Lava Siphon, exiting out of the Geyser areas you can see in that minimap, they're willing to take those risks. Luminosity also in some trouble. Nizul actually falling incredibly low. They're going to be taking a more outward rotation through the Lava City area, maybe for some extra loot, because it doesn't look like they're satisfied right here. They got a nice purple mag on the car here, as well as a great amount of ammo, but if they need to use the replicators, they will be able to boost up their Evo shields using them.
It is very telling that Luminosity have to give up that space as well, because this is the squad that should have had undeniable first dibs on really any position they liked in Lava Siphon. For now, Optic trying to fly in, recognize that they're there and go, absolutely not. I would not like to fight you today. Luminosity Gaming probably feeling a little bit more confident, though they're still working on their shields and using the replicator, as you mentioned. TSM's rotation down may end up meaning that we get a few more fights happening. Replicator, of course, available to TSM here, should they choose to make use of it. The Guard have rotated out to this southernmost side, right by launch site, and are playing around the outside. A difficult position to hold on to, but one that should age better than most in the endgame.
If they manage to win the fight for that room, though, to the left, this is the room that I was actually expecting TSM to want to prioritize, because this is where we've seen the circle close in, but the Guard have the ability to not only wipe those Watson fences with the EMP, and it looks like they are going to get engaged on that fight. They get the crack, maybe try to see what happens, and they saw another EMP on the other side from a team that's trying to look to third party, and that's Karasuno that has the spot already basically bunkered down for them to win that next endgame.
TSM take out Oxygen. In the meantime, the rotation through Geyser is a bloody one, and TSM are again taking no prisoners this game, continuing on this path of aggression, as Optic have managed to get their third right back into the game. They've actually moved just up ahead of Luminosity for the rotation into the next zone and are staring down at Guard, spreading out, taking a lot of areas. Not a whole lot of squads will still be left by Dome to come up behind them. It is the natural part of playing the edge of the zone, is that you know that no one is really at your back right now. As long as Optic can keep eyes on everyone ahead of them and play every side of the fights, they should still come out on top.
Yeah, they can feel secure with the circle closing in behind their back. Minus that one entryway that they have to worry about, as Aiden gets absolutely destroyed. It's Pander's on the higher ground. I'm not surprised. He's got the R301 in his hand after what we saw him do just in the last game with the wingman. They're getting pressured out by other squads, though, taking the high ground of Lava Siphon here, too. With Furia having that high ground platform, Sentinels see the action and want to get involved.
It's difficult to hold onto this for a very long time, but Furia, without a Watson, are going to be harder pressed to do it. Let's take a listen and see what they're thinking.
I'm shooting house for you. Got the dock over there. I'm gonna go look at that bloodhound.
I am really surprised that they're holding the spot.
Alright, a lot of people are staring at us now, so.
Oh, he's got the Devo with the... He's got the gold Devo. I'm disgusted.
this is a really sick loadout for Furia, but I mean, just taking that listen in, I'm still A little bit on edge about how this is going to evolve for Furia. Well, they've got a bunch of loot right now. The zone doesn't seem to be pulling over to them.
No.
And barring something absolutely wild out of this zone pull, they're going to have to rotate down onto the low ground. And taking a look at where we're going now, it's evident that they're absolutely going to have to do that. Not only that, but they're going to have to contest with other teams that want to try and play this little bit of the circle that's still outside.
Very risky there, too. You saw that the circle was probably going to be pulling way more closer. And Optic Gaming, though, waiting and patiently managed to get the jump onto Luminosity. It's Quahiatis who manages to get sent down. And with them only rocking the blue evils, we saw what was going on. Got to get the gravity lift, the alley-oop, so that way he can toss out the grenade, prevent the rest from coming out, and force Luminosity to take more circle damage here if they can take it. But it looks like they want to still take this fight. Crack after crack as Skittle Cakes is angry. They beam out Luminosity, sending them back to the lobby in 15.
Such good Horizon play from Skittles as well. I mean, what else do you expect but being able to not only use his own gravity lift to escape the black hole, but then using the enemies? It's gotten them this far. It does look, however, like their journey may end here. TSM are rocking up behind Optic Gaming, have already found a knock, and Optic have very few places to go. Out into the zone, really the only safe place, and that appears to be the choice, as they will just sacrifice Duplex's life for a chance at being able to play out the rest of this lobby. The rotation should take them up to the north, around and into Lava Siphon, where TSM will again have the opportunity to gatekeep this team.
TSM went from rotating out of their POI of Lava Siphon to the choke point by Geyser to contest Dark Zero, go back to Geyser, hear this fight, rotate from the south side of Geyser through the other end of Lava City's tunnel, to then third party that fight. They are out for blood out here.
It's fascinating to see the way that TSM are making their moves around the map as well, because none of those spots are what you'd consider good. We talked about this early on, but moving into Geyser, very, very risky early on, especially if the zone isn't ending there. Their move down into the low ground outside of Lava Siphon also tends to be real difficult to play, and I think the saving grace here really is those teams that are trying to play a little bit harder for zone, that have a read on where this is pulling already. In Sentinel's case, for example, trying to make their way into zone, they are much more preoccupied with the squad above them than anyone rotating around the outside.
Oh, currently, Sunox falls incredibly low. Again, it's the team that has the high ground right now, but a nice down, the trade for trade between Nano and Mamba right now. Mamba dropping down as Crust gets that Arc Star knock, but they lose out onto it. It's only up to Crust. He can't even pop the shield bat in time, and it's CLG that come out on top. They're going to be able to get Mamba right back in, and with the safety of the Watson fences, they're going to make sure that no other squad wants to try to fight them for the space.
CLG have always been so good at defense as well, and their experimentation with different comps this season has always found the most success when integrating legends that say, no, this is my spot and you're going to get out of it. I'm glad we see them succeed there, and we may get the chance to see them push that even further, as now their backs should be clear for a Valcult into zone. A zone, by the way, that is going to be very difficult to play for all these teams because it is artificially small. TSM are making their way towards guard. Verhulst takes the 1v1 with Keon, wins it, but gets beamed right back by RKN. It's just up to Reps right now. Has found Flesh, drops down to the Watson fences, and picks up the wipe on guard. How's been taken out relatively permanently. Still does have that beacon that can be recovered, but Verhulst needs to be picked back up, and somebody's already getting aggressive onto Reps. Dodges around the outside of this car to avoid the Arc Star, but still gets taken down by Optic, who come in for the third party.
Optic, who managed to rotate and sacrifice Duplex so that way they don't take that fight with TSM, ended up working in their favor at the very end. They get the revenge on TSM. They managed to avenge Duplex, even though they didn't get that banner, but they clean up that KP at the very end. Side note, the Reps is popping off these last two games. I've been seeing them light up that feed. ESA now make their rotation to get involved in this fight too. A little too late though, as they just see the death boxes at their feet meeting them on the other side. Also got to see there is that other team that's wrapped up on the other side of this POI currently right now, with Planchet already congested by 3 other teams. ESA are going to be able to have a nice free rotation to hold this other end.
This was the concern that I was bringing up before we saw TSM fall as well, is that rotations into this zone are going to be artificially more difficult than it would be in almost any other 4th or 5th round, because of the fact that this has a mountain in the direct center of it. So many teams, like even CLG, can be cut off because there just isn't as much playable space as there normally would be. Yuri getting pushed on, gonna get found out even in the midst of the smoke. Nice G7 shots from Watson, but the reload kills him ultimately. CLG do pick up that kill, but still have to fight through a whole heck of a lot of fury as SSG and XET are both gonna try and gatekeep this no matter what way CLG try and rotate in.
It is the best spot to be to actually contest any of the other teams that are forced to funnel outside of Lava Siphon. Yes, CLG won Lava Siphon as we see James Fearless in the feed with a nice Kraber shot onto Capro. That means ESA are down a member. And Space Station, though, are about to get down a member too. Zen falling low, falls into one. He gets knocked immediately. Drop loses it on that shield. And despite trying to circle keep here, they do manage to find CLG, but there's another team on the other side of that rock, and it's XSET.
And E8 are sandwiching on the opposite end of this as well. If XET continue to apply pressure, we will see another squad go down. Up comes Fun, taking out that Seer ult, almost taking out Seer alongside it. But Optic go down in the meanwhile, and we're down to 6 squads already. SSG do get farmed by E8 and XET combining forces. And now we may see that push or the more, I would say, conservative play from XET to wait until next zone and try and Valk ult their way in. This'll get them almost guaranteed placement points if they can play it right.
That was like the ghost handshake meme real quick. Both teams respecting each other and then just walking along into the opposite direction, minding their own business. But this is also a green light for E8 to note that there is a team that's stuck on the other side of that mountain. And if that team doesn't have the ability to skyward dive, rotate around, they're forced to just funnel into E8's point of view, into this next circle, unless they're just going to call it quits on the other side here. With Sykes being on the Valk, they could have that opportunity, though.
Yeah, they're checking it out, seeing what E8 are doing, sort of testing the waters. Our XET is tripods really getting deep into the water, even tanking a little bit of lava so that Jet can get more involved in the fight, gets a little bit of safety, pops that cell for a moment, but with Deeds already down, this fight cannot go on for too long or it will be the death of both squads. Nick Mercs playing things safe for the moment, lets Deeds get thirsted for the greater good, you have to imagine. Still looking for snipes, doesn't quite find it. There's the 50 flash, but I don't know if they're going to be able to finish these kills.
He can at least grief them, prevent them from healing up with the Seer tactical here. They try to find the opening. Gent coming in from another angle here. He needs help from Nick.
Nice.
He's going to be able to wrap around. They finish off Krasuno, who are on the low ground. They get scanned by the squad on the high ground, but none of these squads on the high ground are going to contest them. They have the positional advantage. They're going to let that squad simultaneously survive, and G2, with Design popping the Beast of a Hunt, is out for blood.
G2 got to be careful, though. Remember, XET are going to try and Valk ult in right above them. They've got to hear it. They've got to be looking out for this play that would normally land a squad right on top of Design right now. Keeping our eyes on the kill feed, on the map, to see where XET end up landing. G2 still safe inside this building. 100 Thieves are out, and is it possible that XET are still safe on the other end of this mountain?
You kidding me? 4 squads left in tripods. G2, XET are another one. E8 played from the back end here, I believe, here still, as G2 are just gonna jump on top of the duo. They had the information from the Bloodhound scan, and they want all the KP that they can scoop up from what is left of tripods. They get Jet knocked. There's only up to Nick Mercs, and tripods get wiped out. But that was still a great fight, and that may have just costed G2 with E8 being behind them.
It looks like it. E8 know exactly what's up here. They've got height advantage. They've got health bar advantage. They've taken out G2. And XET have finally made their way over the mountain. They lose one in the process. And Mercy takes a great flank. Nocturnal full thirsted now. But the fire, the smoke makes it impossible to look at the other 2 members. Up to the sky they're going to go. E8 finally isolating their prey. Can they collapse onto XET in time? Getting fried is Cole. Mercy going low. E8 could still clutch this up, but XET are finding Nox. XET from over the mountain managed to clutch it up, finding their second win in Oversight of the day.
And with just an amazing way and timing for them to get into that next circle when they were isolated on the other side of the mountain. Are you kidding me? E8 making the rotation to third part of the G2 and tripods fight has allowed XET to walk in behind them, to also get right on top of them with the skyward dive, and then win that fight that they should have had a disadvantage in.
Oh, we're going to look back at this game because it was one for the history books. We had so many funny moments coming into even the mid-game as TSM's journey of vengeance took them the long way around, ultimately even running them in to Optic Gaming. We're having a great time farming it up in Lava City, but their journey was cut short right here on their rotation in, as it was for so many squads.
I'm not over the ending of that last game, deal. That was actually insane. Tripod's also taking out Karasuno at the very bottom. They found that last rat of 100 Thieves too. They heard that fight. G2 jumped on top of them, gave up that high ground, allowed EA to also come into third party them. And in this advantage fight that EA had at the very end, they had gotten the first knock. They still lose out at the very end. Playing around the knockdown shield was amazing, and Exit come out on top at the very end. The only team to take more than one dub for the day so far. The last game that we had on World's Edge.
I cannot believe how much fun clutched up at the end there. On the Seer, playing the knockdown shields. It was a 2v3 from the moment the engagement started. And ultimately, a very well-deserved win. I mean, playing that side of the zone, being able to Valcult at the perfect time, it's not something that a whole lot of squads would have done.
That was tough. TSM coming in third with 11 KP. Can we talk about how they literally chose violence off the start of that game 3? They said, we're going to end World's Edge on a bang. We're going to rotate outside of the RPOI, where the circle's pulling, by the way, and make sure that Dark 01 learns their lesson. Try to third party what was left of what happened with CLG, and then even try to counter-rotate to third party the Optic Gaming fight that we had seen happen by the Lava City tunnel.
When you get eliminated with only one placement point and still make it to top 3, you send a message to everyone else. I'll say that much. TSM have had a really nice comeback game, especially given the way they started the day, even the way the second game went. But now we shift gears entirely, and I don't expect them to be contesting Dark Zero anymore, because now it's time for Dark Zero to contest 100 Thieves over by Command Center, if that's still going on. That's going to be the contest that we're looking at there. Is unfortunately, Dark Zero don't have a whole lot of safety today, but we'll get the chance to check that out when we return from a short break. They know exactly what's up here. They've got height advantage. They've got health bar advantage. They've taken out G2, and Xset have finally made their way over the mountain. They lose one in the process, and Mercy takes a great flank. Nocturnal full thirsted now, but the fire, the smoke makes it impossible to look at the other two members. Up to the sky they're going to go. E8 finally isolating their prey. Can they collapse onto Xset in time? Getting fried is Cole. Mercy going low. E8 could still clutch this up, but Xset are finding Nox. Xset from over the mountain managed to clutch it up, finding their second win in Oversight of the day.
And with Justin...
Welcome back to Oversight Week 4, and now, Vicky, almost Game 4, as we're going to be popping into that very shortly. Before we do, let's take a look at the overall leaderboards to check where Xset have landed themselves after their second victory today.
Oh, wow. Talk about nobody trying to fight for that spot, because they are sitting at 51 points in first place. Having the guard coming in second with 28 points. Fear right behind the guard with a 1 point difference with 27 points. But look at that gigantic gap between Xset, who just won 2 games with a bunch of KP to their name. Game 1, they won with 10 KP. Now game 3, they won with 7 KP. And then the rest of this lobby here, Dia.
We could be doubling guards points right now and still going, you know, Xset could take first next game. Which is pretty ridiculous to consider. Furia right behind them, of course, do have that shot at second, and you want to net yourself into top 4 of the day for a shot at prizing top 10 of the day in order to make it into next week. And that's the other objective that we've got to keep track of as we move ourselves further in. First through fourth, great. Top 10, also really important. What I'm noticing right now is that BR Demons, Tripods, and Karasuno are all sat up there.
Yep, they're all tied up here too in total points right now. So BR Demons, Tripods, Karasuno, they all need to actually have a pop-off performance here on Storm Point to not only break through that tie, but to settle themselves in that top 5 here too.
They sure would like a little bit more insurance, that's for sure. Hydro Thieves very close, if not right on top of those 3 squads. But this is where I think the shift in play style is going to be really important. We've had 3 opportunities on World's Edge that tends to be this very calculated map, is how I normally characterize it. Things turn into who can hold buildings really well, how you're going to utilize those power positions. Stormpoint does tend to play out a little bit differently, though we still keep those fundamentals of Apex. As I'm fond of saying on Stormpoint, a squad in motion is a squad that's going to succeed.
Yeah, I love how you highlight that, because that was actually a really good example of what we witnessed day 8 of the ALGS with NRG calling off, not trying to third-party certain teams and just trying to prioritize the rotation, which actually allowed them to get ahead of the squads that were fighting on the outside of the circle. Rotation just being so important when it comes to playing on Stormpoint in those open areas, where that's when I had talked to Duplex talking about the different comps that they were trying out for Stormpoint versus World's Edge. The Bangalore, obviously, with the smokes, providing the extra cover necessary to cross through those open grounds. Been seeing a lot more of the Bangalore and Bloodhound composition, especially on Stormpoint. Although we have also on the other side of the coin been seeing a lot of those Crypto Watson squads that like to hold final circle position and bunker down inside those buildings that are left in the circles if they do provide any on Stormpoint.
I really appreciate that we're getting these 2 diverse play styles across all of professional Apex that pull in polar opposite directions. It's not variations on the same game plan. It is one team going, we're going to play Crypto Watson, we're going to be inside a building and you're not going to touch us, and the other team going, I'm playing Bangalore and I'm playing Bloodhound, I'm absolutely going to touch you. It's terrifying to go up against, but likewise, you have to imagine that for Bangalore Bloodhound teams that you're a lot more used to seeing just run over lobbies in ranked games, that it's also quite scary to be going up against teams that are so well set up and that honestly have that defensive advantage, especially when we get into things like zones 5 and 6. Bangalore smoke doesn't save a lot of people, and it isn't just because of digi-threats, it's because Bangalore smoke might save you from 1 squad shooting you through the smoke, might save you from 2 squads shooting you through the smoke. When 3 or more squads get involved, that smoke is basically non-existent.
That and the Seer ult too, the exhibition that we have to think about, the timing on the Seer ult that we've seen actually in game number 2 get negated from Tripods when a properly timed EMP gets unleashed, so that it all comes down to the timing too of when to use that exhibition to try to also contest those Bangalore squads that are trying to either take control of a building or trying to rotate into a building or on the outside of a building. And then when you time that Seer ult into an EMP that you have to predict the other squads holding the buildings are going to be using, since cryptos allow you to get the scan on beacons without having to overextend since the drone does it for you.
Yeah, it's a super useful part of this legend, and honestly, the EMP is nice, but I'd postulate, Vicky, that it's one of the things that has brought... It's one of the only things that has brought Crypto into the meta. You could remove a lot of Crypto's other abilities and say, you can only scan beacons from ridiculously long range, and people would still play it, because that's how important being able to get that knowledge early on is, especially for the teams that are prioritizing zone. Don't get me wrong, though. Don't remove EMP. It's really useful for these teams.
Especially against the amount of Seer teams that we saw spring up at the very beginning of the Pro League. It was very necessary, and that's why I liked that G2 were probably one of the first teams to make that mainstay composition between the Bloodhound and the Bangalore, the first teams to actually try to elaborate and experiment with the metas that they felt more comfortable with. And that's also what I really like about teams, even like looking in the EMEA region, Aurora, who don't even run meta compositions. We were talking about this a little bit before we started the show, between the Wraith, the Mad Maggie, we even get different variations. Sometimes we see Fuse coming out. Of course, we saw EA experimenting with the Fuse on World's Edge. And with the disparity of the high to low ground that we're about to enter when it comes to Stormpoint, of course, those circle pools get called into play from the teams that have those northern POIs that get to cross more distance with the Skyward Dive, and where the circle will be closing in if we do see a southern circle.
Just keeping a lookout here. There it is. SZN down in the bottom left corner, whipping out the Ash. As soon as you say verticality, that's one of the legends that I'm thinking about. Of course, so many people go, yeah, well, Horizon, super useful. But it was Ash that was theorized as being one of the better picks when Stormpoint was first introduced into competitive, and yet it hasn't seen a whole lot of play. I'm really happy to see SCN making use of it, experimenting with the time that they have here in Oversight to see what they can do to push themselves to their best level of gameplay. But Ash is going to be a really polarizing pick, yet one that I'd argue should be more effective than most on Stormpoint.
Yeah, you talk about experimenting. Exit still with the Newcastle, being able to find that success on Stormpoint. Newcastle, the Loba. I like how they make that transition exiting out of World's Edge. Also, just talking about how a lot of these other squads still feel very comfortable with the Seer Horizon Valkyrie. We've been basically seeing from the very beginning with a lot of these squads was trying to understand a much more aggressive composition. Now taking a look at CLG, getting involved in an early fight already.
Gotta wonder who this is up against. Nano does get a little bit of opening damage, but playing very defensively, as you'd expect of CLG. They don't really want to take a fight without getting at least a crack, likely a knock first, as they aren't a squad that I'd characterize as being the most W key. But let's find out how they play this as we take a short listen in.
They're right above me.
They're dropping, I think.
They just dropped. Good phone. 20 on Horizon Blue. I know, she's still there. Popping the cell.
Go for it. They're all just sitting
Maybe.
eyes though. Look this up.
Careful, Mumbo.
You good? They are trying to.
They dropped on my side.
Wait. No, come on.
Mirror.
42 and blue on the guy.
Horizon dead.
100 down one. Oh.
They're both up. There's a white swap right here. He's throwing a nade. Nice. Play like play. He's chasing hard. Fire.
Nah, look at him.
Yeah, they just had a wingman car.
Oh my lord! Watching the Seer cancel there. That's Karasuno picking up 3 kills on CLG with the aggressive moves. We've got more being made across the rest of the map as G2 are taking a fight up against Esports Arena in Downed Beast. They've already lost Chaotic, and that's a big loss to take early on, as Chaotic is such a mechanically gifted player that has gotten G2 through a lot of tough situations.
He's amazing, and also the fact that he's not only the horizon of this team, but this squad having to play in this location, playing on the low ground of Down Beast, means that they won't really have the ability to fully send it on a player who's got the high ground of Down Beast and take advantage of that position here too, because they don't have that mobility between the Bloodhound and the Bangalore.
They don't have ult either. Out comes the aggressive ult from Esports Arena, but G2 can't answer it back with full information. They're missing out in members, they're missing out in info, and they're going to be missing out in points this game, as Design does get that nice knock, but what is... They're looting in front of him. They're actually just looting. Wow, disrespectful.
He just looked at them and knew it was his time. Like, even if he tried to go for a shield swap on the down player, it was GG at that moment. 100 Thieves also were here with Onmu going down very early. They were chased all the way here in Fish Farm. Scurry playing on the low ground. He just wants to secure some sort of KP. The Arc Star's coming in. The EMP now being released for 100 Thieves. It starts trying to play off of 2 knockdowns. And now the quick shield swap. He gets it in time, and he's playing off the gold knockdown.
100 Thieves in a 1v2 up against Complexity with the Thermite in the door as well. He's found the knock onto Luxford. There's a chance that Scurry clutches this for the team. Still has this knockdown shield to play. Arcstar is good in the doorway. Frag is even better. There's a lot of damage coming in, and maybe just the clutch from Scurry. 69, one more hit'll do it, and he comes in with a 3-1 bullet in it. Shiny clutches it, and Complexity win the fight. Oh!
Scurry was going crazy at the very end right there, and now Exit in another skirmish. So much early fighting over here by Fishrams already. Fun playing off of his own Newcastle wall here, and without Nocturnal, they're playing at a number disadvantage.
Sykes got this initial knock, though, and that's going to really help them get back into the game. Fun's pulling off the res. Meanwhile, flank around the outside, not going to do much of anything, as now they can play protect the door. They've already got one covered. Mobile shield to get aggressive as well, and Fun should be able to kick this door in no problem. Finishes off the kill onto Mercy.
What a cleanup and what chaos we're already seeing on this side of Fish Farms. They're trying to get that last player before they can get the res. It's E8 that get eliminated in 17. Back to the lobby. Exet still get pinged by another squad in the distance. Nice finish from Exet to prevent the third party from moving in, and a respawn now coming in as well.
I can't believe the chaos that we've been seeing in Fish Farms. I mean, this POI so infrequently sees action, but as soon as the zone pulls down here, everyone's hustling for it. That is a very sad complexity. That res, well, it looked good. Not so easy to pull off. It's just another kill into the pockets of Luminosity, but I respect the attempt.
It's that terrible feeling when it's the charge rifle that finds you too, when you're just trying to finally plant your feet on the ground and you just get deleted off the rip there. But that's what happens when you get res in an open area like Fish Farms, especially with so many teams in the area. Now, as you can see, the Bloodhound scan has come out, and so does the Seer ult too. Oxygen in some trouble, though. You peek once, and you're gone at the hands of enemy. He beamed them with the T7.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be likely fight taken out of LG's hands as Oxygen got taken down as well. BR Demons pick up these kills and get the chance to push themselves a little further into this zone they are very far out of right now, playing around the edge as BR Demons are wont to do. We get a chance to look back at the zone, and Complexity still as a two-man are right next door to TSM, who've chosen to play a little bit deeper into the zone now.
TSM actually playing on this high ground right here. They're getting pinged by the team already taking up the space inside of these buildings. But they have to be careful with other squads that are going to be rotating from the other side of Launchpad. They can take a southern rotation, passing Stormcaster into that choke point here. And with the circle closing in, we can see the overhead of all the other teams and where they've decided to take space inside some of these buildings. Other teams like Dark Zero playing on the underside of that Fish Farms area. They want to play on the outskirts so that way they don't get involved and pinch into some of these other teams. But a lot of these teams with the call on where the circle was going to be pulling, TSM knew, but they're going to be able to get the beacon, and they're also going to be able to have the replicator. And seeing that other teams are taking their time inside this building is a good call, so that way they can just boost up their Evo shields instead of getting involved in skirmishes.
Karasuno rotating in next to them as well. Could be a chance for TSM to get even more kills. Luminosity around the outside right now. Tried to push up onto Complexity, who, keep in mind, are still just a two-person squad, but with all of the other teams in the area, we're unable to without being peppered by shots and ultimately losing one member. They've still got two up. The chance to maybe stabilize as up comes Yanya, finding an incredible amount of damage onto Shiny, and maybe just keeping the team safe with that. It's a 2v1 now inside the building. Complexity do go down. Luminosity find a chance to restabilize, but are still missing that third member on the outside of the building, and a res nearly impossible.
Hopefully they are able to pull it off now that they've got themselves their own building that they have to fight for here. SZN with Hakula falling incredibly low, having to play off the high ground. He's got the safety of his own Seer ult so he can have the information necessary for now Kenny to also try to roll around to the left side. That player Aiden get immediately destroyed though on the high ground of the gravity lift too by Sentinels, and Season are going to be able to take out the rest of BR Demons that also try to find an opportunity to third party inside this building.
I appreciate the aggro, and good reset from Season. Should be pretty easy to find. Sentinels are taking that slow rotate around the back to try and play further to the edge, clear out the remainder of the map before finding themselves a fight. And while it should make it difficult for them to actually aggress onto SZN, they're going to go for it anyway. Out goes that smoke, and already inside the building, Sentinels are risking it all with this fight.
Do pop the Beast of the Hunt so that way they have that scan. The smoke's also coming out here from Senox. Ooh, nice entry though with that EMP though from the other side. Currently, Sentinel's actually on the other side. It was actually the Ash Tactical that was unleashed so that way they could get stuck together. And with the Black Hole coming in, they are cleaning up. Hakulo gets deleted.
Gotta watch the
behind them.
LOS's. Sentinels come around that corner a little bit too antsy. Senox eats some damage, but turns around to help take down Klein. And with 2 members of SZN now, it really is the lines of sight that changed that fight for the worse in the case of SZN. Through the window, it's real nice play from Sentinels that lets them take that, and Furia are looking for a fight themselves. They're 2 stereotypically aggressive squads. Watson low, not going to be finished off this time as Panders ends up peeling for him, taking down Wave, and moving themselves a little further on. Karasuno get eliminated on their move into the zone, but TSM, who were hoping to gatekeep that themselves, saw it happen and are now looking straight at Furia.
Now they're going to be playing on the other side with lackluster Evo shields in comparison to what Furia's rocking with. The red Evos already. That's information for TSM to note that they should just try to hold position here on the high ground. Now Furia knows that TSM still have blue Evo shields, and with Veral's taking a good amount of damage, is looking to reset with the shield bat behind the rock here.
I really like that they've got G7s this time around, though. TSM are going to be playing the majority of this game at medium to long range, and so having this for ammo economy for good damage is going to mean that they can stay relatively safe from Furia, barring something like that Rolling Thunder being expended to buy a lot of space. Sentinels, in the meanwhile, also being one of our teams to run that Bloodhound Bangalore composition, are continuing to play the edge, make sure that their backs are clear before moving in, as isolated 3v3s are what they're prioritizing right now. It's what this squad should be best at.
Oh, look who's coming up, though. TSM are looking to take that care package into their own hands as Optic Gaming are rotating into that building to the north side here. TSM also holding the back end of that gravity cannon, are going to be able to try to give some support fire to Hal. He does try to engage here. Optic Gaming are already on the high ground, and with Duplex rocking the Seer, they have the information that there is that team that's over on the other side of the water.
Reps popped down, and I get a little bit more nervous, but Optic don't seem invested in actually taking a fight right now, not even seeing shots. They're Valk ulting in. That's the game plan from Optic. Not a whole lot of places to land, but they do have one on the last member of SZN. They rotate all the way back to the spot from whence they came, as over near Gale Station, Sentinels have found yet another fight. It's a little bit late, but it is isolated, Vicky, and that's what they were going for from the beginning. Slayer going to be able to push up here with the scan that Crushed throws out. Plenty of space is bought by the combination of the Rolling Thunder, the smoke, and that Bloodhound scan, but plenty bought right back as Horizon ult pulls all the Sentinels into disarray. Senox is down. It's a trade onto Nick. Mercs is up against Tripods. Sentinels again risk it all. They lose 2. Crust is on 10 HP and it's going to go down around the outside. Tripods picking up the win.
Tripods managing to hold down the building too, while ESA now make the rotation after getting whiff of that fight. They need to reset quickly here. ESA will have that information with Phony being on the Seer too, and they took their time. Look at that Debo in the hands of Capra. I'd be absolutely terrified if a young fragger like Capra just came into my building with the Debo himself. He sees a lot of the other members of Tripods on the outskirts of the building, and despite over by the hillside, Fury have pinched TSM. TSM see the issue, and Luminosity Gaming are going to capitalize with Optic taking this high ground.
TSM rotating down onto the low ground. For now, we'll keep them safe, but it's temporary at best, as this position does not look fun to play out of. Grayburn Hand, though, could change everything. Even a single knock onto Luminosity Gaming, who'll mirror them on the low ground, would be enough. Esports Arena have been pushed back by the Tripods pretty darn effectively, I might add, in the meanwhile, but Phony makes sure to tickle him in the back enough that they'll think twice about going for the push once more, as both teams come to a standstill around the outside. We're waiting for that one big crack to really send this fight off. The Tripods and ESA both are going to have to rotate in. They're going to have to rotate in right now. ESA trying to get ahead of things, have Capra go on forward, cut off the exits to this building. There's a Valcolt around the outside. He's got cracks in the sky. He knocks Deeds, and Esports Arena get to walk on forward and claim these kills.
Oh, to get the knock on the Valkyries. Everybody's falling like a heavy rock. That's the Tripods going down as ESA needs to finish off what is left of them on the outside. That's what I was talking about, Capra with the Devo. That's so scary. And in the line of sight of the startup of the Skyward Dive meets, that is going to be it here for this squad.
That knock was really problematic, though. Capra has fallen, and with the zone just at their backs, even a single shot will take him out. Another push going up onto the high ground has Furia again getting aggressive, but this time with Optic, who have come from behind. That sandwich from before now comes to a violent crescendo as Luminosity Gaming start to pick up kills. Capra from before having fallen down. Esports Arena permanently down a member, and Furia looking in the chaos of this smoke for some knocks of their own. They know exactly where their enemy is, but can't get angles on them as Panders tries to play this head peek for a little bit more shielding. Zera simultaneously gonna hit the bat. Everybody at full health now, and Furia need to find some tempo in this fight. Smoke in the middle, really making things problematic for them.
And playing on the outside, too, of this seer hole means that there's so much space that Fury have to respect at the same time. They take the gravity lift to overlook some of the action, but these Bangalore smokes blocking out their line of sight. One of that member here from that squad are going to be able to take the high ground on top of that rock, but Fury now having to play ring around the Rosie through the gravity cannon and the hillside to see where they can engage.
Good push from Panders. Has backup as well. Zera's right alongside him, and being able to claim just this little bit of low ground gives Furia the inlet here. Watson already up onto the height as well, and Zera's going to be able to back this up simultaneously. Smoke gives them time to reset, and Zera gets height as well. Artificial with the gravity lift, but height nonetheless, as they get a chance to throw in even more damage. Continue to claim this top spot and push Optic down onto the low ground. It is worth the resources that they are sinking into this, but it was close for Furia.
And I like the fact that they're not trying to overextend because they are getting pinged by another squad in the distance here too. You can see as Panders falls low, he's going to be able to pop the shield bat. His Watson made that note from the very beginning when he wanted to fully send it onto Optic Gaming. Calls it back a little bit. There's open ground between themselves with this rock and Optic, who went down that hill. Another squad in their line of sight. We also note that inside the building, into that next circle, is Luminosity. The beamage coming in from his Watson, the tracking with the R301, but he's got limited ammunition to work with after this.
Yeah, they need to take out a squad and take him out. Now that first knock really opens things up. The rest of Furia going to try and finish things off, diving down into the smoke. Zera may not have a digi, but he has got angles on angles. Knocked goes down, and this should be a wipe onto Optic, giving Furia the chance to collect those much-needed resources, as you illustrated, Vicky. No one's even pushing them right now, but the zone takes out Panders!
Oh! He managed to get
so
it
close.
out of time. He gets a shield swap swiftly, but they won't have the chance to loot the way that they needed. They were able to at least get the quick ammo that they need, but maybe not the meds that they want to fully use. I mean, it doesn't matter. His Watson's got 18 shield cells, so he's got enough to share. TSM take the Skyward Dive on top of the guard. The EMP gets unleashed. Hal gets sent down. It's only up to Reps, but that's the risk of the Skyward Dive later in the game. They didn't really have a spot for them to safely hold. Now the guard lose out on Keon in the process in that last fight. And hopefully they can get a reset now as Furia make their rotation using the Bangalore smoke for cover.
Panders does go down this open ground again, claiming more lives. Luminosity know the pain well, but I'm up in the building above. They're the ones that get to look down and laugh this time around. Esports Arena still in this game. Might collect a kill here. Last shot not going to belong to them, as it's instead Space Station that take out that last member of the guard. But Esports Arena still have that little bit of safety underneath this building. Not a whole lot of meds, though. Phony being a little bit greedy with them. Could go down to any stray shot, but is dancing just well enough that he'll survive this ring at the very least. 6 squads left, and the exodus from this building will likely take them down soon. Luminosity on the inside know exactly what's going on below. They're going to go on the push now, eat a lot of damage for doing so, but in a 3v1 situation, you can do that.
Luminosity have not moved from this building from the very beginning when they first took over, and for all the right reasons. They were rocking double charge rifle between Uzul and Yanya. They were able to grief the squads that were fighting uphill between TSM, Optic Gaming, and Furia. They were able to farm those evil shields without having to give up that space, and look who's part of this top 5 here too, Dia. It's Eggset that have been holding the back end of Fish Farms.
This is kind of ridiculous. I don't know what's going on in the heads of Xset, but they have clearly gotten something right today. Their calls have just been on point for these zones, and it's given them a lot of survivability. Top 5 is again going to push them further ahead of so many other teams in this lobby. Luminosity Gaming going to have to exit their building soon, and Xset, I believe, are going to be able to stay in theirs. We get that confirmed now by our observers, as yes, we see that ring closing in on top of Xset, who should be safe and who should be able to defend this area. Squad landing on top of him. How do you end up pulling this off? They're trying to take the opposite end of the building. Nocturnal going to pop in, throw out that thermite, cause some serious damage. They feel confident enough to push. They are ticking for flesh right now, but Xset are going to play things safe.
They're so smart to disengage here. Even though they got the double crack, they don't want to risk it. They lost too much health with Fun, losing out on his own shield. There's still a squad behind them. They know exactly where the other squad's going to be coming from, but they can't turn their backs to the squad that Skyward Dive on top of them.
How is this happening from the back space station?
Oh,
Get
nice
a stick as well! Zen opens things up massively for the team as Sykes goes down, and the team that should have been in God's spot has been evicted by a combination of SSG and Luminosity Gaming.
XF still incredibly low, but they are able to try to get the reset. Meanwhile, Dark Zero's looking at this chaos like, we do not want to get involved. We just booted our way out of there immediately after we saw the third party come in. Now with the Beamage with the G7, he's putting in some extra pressure onto the squad that managed to take the inside of that building. But XR is still playing on the outside, on the other side of the building.
And I like this position from them, honestly. They may not have the best defensive setup. They don't have something like a Watson, but all of the other teams are going to have to leave. And even if you've got a Bangalore ult right here, you can really change up the game. Space Station likely to go out now as what on earth is happening right now? How? What? How are exit? What?
They were able to reset on the other side. Nobody wanted to push. Every single squad in that fight said, oh, we're all about to die. And everybody just went to reset. And everybody is now fully up to health, minus Space Station playing this as a rat currently look like on the very high ground here. They get finally taken out with 3 squads left. Exit are looking to take control over this high ground.
Sykes is built different. One man
third party.
holding off 2. Zone closes in, cutting off that doorway, keeping Xset safe. Newcastle wall not going to be up, and you're preying on the mobile shield to save you when you drop from this building. A little bit of height still left for them, but Dark Zero know exactly what's going on, focusing on Xset underneath this building. The fence line ain't safe to play either, as everyone is forced to make their exodus, and finally, Xset do get taken out. Dark Zero push up, last remaining squad. It's Luminosity on the other end of this, but it's a great angle that Dark Zero have found. One shield swap, not gonna happen. There's nothing in the box. Dark Zero get taken out, and Luminosity find the win.
They came out on top with the alley-oop. There was nothing in that evil shield, and they still were able to hold that building from the very beginning. Dark Zero did have one of the best positions, though, and it looked like they were trying to bait Exit to try to get off from the high ground with an early engagement, and then they disengaged to try to reset against Luminosity at the very end over on the other side of that fence line. Luminosity played that amazingly.
They really did, and it was throughout the entire game as well. The riskiest part of Luminosity's game was that initial drop into fish farms, where they very, very nearly went out to the 2 men of complexity. But even then, the fact that they were able to recuperate, make a solid push in, and recover their fallen teammate on the outside of the building in the face of so many other squads shooting at them, I mean, it speaks to some real caliber performance on this squad, and one that ultimately took them to a very well-deserved win.
Love to see Luminosity come out on top right there too, especially when they predicted where that circle was going to be pulling. They held that building, and they also had so many teams in their line of sight in the safety of their building with their weapon loadouts like we were looking at before. The double charge rifle was able to put in a lot of pressure onto TSM that originally wanted to hold that hillside.
Turns into a lot of kills as well. 13 with a game win means a 25-point game for Luminosity. Esports Arena, Xset, and Dark Zero in a 3-way tie for second right underneath them.
That's huge right there to also highlight Esports Arena with their fragging powers with 4 placement points only. They went out a little earlier than we had expected when they were forced to rotate on the outside of that circle. They did, I believe, lose out on Capra due to Luminosity actually trying to grip him with the charge rifle, but they still picked up 8 KP out of that. And that was right after we saw them basically take down tripods in the middle of their Skyward Dive.
Yeah, Furia, who finish in 5th, do still have a really nice game as well. And with 2 more opportunities here on Stormpoint, we've got a taste of Fish Farms. It's a very different zone from everything else. What will change on Stormpoint? Who else will come out on top? We'll answer those questions when we get back from a short break. This for the team. Still has this knockdown shield to play. Arcstar is good in the doorway. Frag is even better. There's a lot of damage coming in, and maybe just the clutch from Skirway. 69, one more hit'll do it, and it comes in. No, he had to reload. He had to reload. One bullet in it. Shiny clutches it, and Complexity win the fight. Oh,
Scurry was going crazy.
Welcome back to Oversight, folks, as Vicky and I return. We've got that overall scoreboard for you to set the stage for how these teams are moving on. 4 games down, 2 more left. XSET still largely in the lead, as they've been remarkably consistent today, Vicky.
Absolutely. It's always these top threes that, to no surprise, XSET makes their way, and they even won 2 games earlier between Game 3 and Game 1 on World's Edge. And with that consistency, still getting top 3 on Stormpoint for our first game there for Game 4. So now looking at the total leaderboard, looking at how LG have managed to elevate themselves in the overall standings, that was a 13 KP game that they were able to take, as well as the dub. So now they're going to be able to sit comfy in that second place spot with Furia right behind them.
Yeah, we talked about how top 4 really important, also top 10. And what I'm noticing right now is that 6th through 10th are tied. 21 points across the board for them. And with Space Station Gaming 1 point behind, G2 2 points behind, 100 Thieves 3, I mean, it is literally 1 game's worth of difference, 1 placement point's worth of difference. Making it just up to the top 10 squads in a single game could push you into the top 10 overall, and that is the goal for a lot of our teams, to be able to at least secure themselves that safety, knowing they're going to play in the finals next week and being able to accrue even more points for the playoffs.
Yeah, because the bottom 10 teams are going to have to be dealing with the qualifiers on the other side of things for next week, too. So that's why I love these Game 5s now that we're moving into Game 5 here on Stormpoint Dia, because with so many teams tied in points right now, this is the game that's going to cause all the chaos to dictate whether these teams want to play for KP or if they want to play for that final circle positioning, especially with a different approach that we even saw from TSM, one of those games on World's Edge, where this had to rotate on the outside of the circle just to make sure that they could secure some KP.
Yeah, they're giving us a similar look on Stormpoint as well, and I can't lie, Vicky, I'm kind of enjoying it. It may not be the same consistency that we saw from them just yesterday in the ALGS, but the fact that TSM are going out on a limb here and actually consciously moving themselves into this edge position, even when they have zone pulling to them, saying, normally we would adapt, but we're really trying to work on this aspect of our game, and that's what we're going to go for, has actually worked out really well for them. I think that they've gotten a lot of exposure to that sort of edge of the circle style today, and while it was quite difficult to play, especially last game, they got to do so up against some of the best in the business. This sandwiched between Optic and Furia, I mean, you are going to get no better chance to figure out how to play a high-tension, high-stakes edge situation.
And especially when you're in the line of sight of the team that ends up winning that game, Luminosity, who had to secure that building too from the duo of Complexity, was also very entertaining to see how they were able to secure that. And even to the very end, all the teams respecting one another to then try to go for a hard reset all together was something that I wasn't expecting, especially since Dark Zero did have the health advantage, but they called it. They didn't want to get caught in the chaos with so many other entryways and the window openings that other teams on the outside of the building could hold, so they just called it off, held this rock that they were holding in before, and even then, Luminosity was still able to take that fight having the health disadvantage.
I gotta say, this is, I think, the main difference between, and it holds true for Fish Farms as well as everywhere else on the map, but the biggest difference, or one of them at the very least, between World's Edge and Stormpoint is the literal architecture of the buildings, because there are so many lines of sight on people inside buildings that simply don't exist on World's Edge. You take any building in Lava City, and you have a zip line, a door, and one entry out of the stairway. In a fight like the one that we had over at Gale Station, you've got a door from above, a doorway behind, a doorway to your left, a window on your side, a staircase above you, the little cracks in the vents as well. There are so many angles that good players can take advantage of, and it becomes less about navigating what you're exposed to and really about predicting where the other team is going to be in any given fight. Something Luminosity, I think, did really well in that end game fight, was be able to say, we know that there are a lot of angles that this can be approached from. We're going to pick one, and we're going to make sure that's safe.
And that's without a seer too. That's what they're complimenting the Bloodhound, the Bangalore, and the Valkyrie. Because what a lot of teams do when it comes to those Stormpoint buildings, because there's so many open angles that other teams could take shots from, they use the seer ult in the safety of the building to make sure that they could preemptively know where the teams want to approach from what angles or from what openings that they have to be aware of too. So that's really great on Luminosity to hold that down, not even with a bunker down character too from the very beginning. The respect that they were able to buy in from the other squads that wanted to fight for that control or even fight to approach approach from that area uphill from exiting out of launch fight was fantastic pressure from Luminosity.
As we talked about, though, Fish Farm's very, very different from any other zone in the game. I mean, you'd mentioned at the very beginning, but verticality is so often the thing that's most important on Stormpoint. And Fish Farms, we don't get any of that. It's something that you can really appreciate with the different biomes and how they play out, but it's not just a zone advantage, it is also a play style that comes into consideration for a lot of placements of these squads. And now that we get the chance to move on a little bit more central to the map, we got a teaser of that zone 1 already, we'll have the opportunity to see something very different, because in any position that the zone can land from here on out, that verticality is going to be really important.
I love how you mentioned that too, because we talk about it a lot, but it's just the layout of Stormpoint. As we can see, actually, that 50-50 happening in Stormcatcher again, with CLG having Mamba on the Caustic, though. He's going to be able to actually play around this space patiently without worrying about the EMP, but when it comes to the entire squad diving in on you on the high ground, it makes it very difficult. DB with a P2020 and a Dream, Wave replicating that with the Mozambique. Nobody is safe out here, and CLG get taken out by Karasuno with the safety of the Mozambique and P2020.
A nice wipe, and a lot faster as well. No third party going to come in off the back of that. CLG, I liked the return to the Caustic on a theoretical level. Outdoors, not really his spot. Not really where Caustic is the most comfortable. Our second contest, G2 versus Esports Arena over in Downed Beast, has already been highlighted by our observers, but the fight hasn't broken out just yet. Esports Arena actually opting into the low ground for right now, underneath Downed Beast.
Interesting, with G2 having to lose out on that 50-50 before, they wasted no time to make sure that they could get on the high ground here. At least Design is, and he's going to be able to get the scan to let Risolto and Chaotic know where they're at. Risolto did pick up that nice Purple Weevil shield off the rib, and Chaotic falls incredibly low. Chaotic having to back off, doesn't want to be the first one to go down again.
Luda's 1v2ing
They're
right now.
isolated.
Oh, he took out Risolto. What is going on? Luda goes crazy for a moment and takes down Risolto, leaving this as a 2v2. It is still the thirst onto Luda, however. Makes things a little bit more difficult. Chaotic still up. G7 in hand. Mastiff as well, so deadly at that close and medium range. It's going to make things real difficult, especially with the nades that come out. Design drops down, and cracks already come in. There's no covering fire for Phony, and Esports Arena lose yet another with G2 picking up the squad wipe.
The revenge here, too, that they needed as well to make sure they could build up the momentum on Stormpoint. Optic Gaming in the fight themselves, having the high ground, getting 2 knocked here from Dark Zero.
Good start for them. Height and full health on everyone should make this another easy cleanup. And it's surprising, Vicky, that we're seeing so many one-directional fights in the early game. Optic Gaming have swiftly moved their way out of Mill, and we all know that Mill has great loot because we've seen I don't know how many squads contest each other for it. But the fact that they still end up moving so quickly and getting yet another squad wipe, the fact that we have 17 squads while Zone 1 has yet to close is really quite a lot faster than most lobbies.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, that's CLG, ESA, and Dark Zero out of this lobby for Game 5. This is what I mean. When it comes to this Game 5 opportunities for some of these squads to pick up the pace, they are out and they have chosen violence. Exit, not on that side of the page. They know they have a big gap to work with, and they know a lot of teams have them in their sights. They're trying to play for positioning. They're trying to avoid getting pinched here by Karasuno to have the high ground, and with the guard right behind them, they got to secure themselves in a little nook and cranny.
A mobile shield going to be really valuable. Fun takes a quick reset behind that. Still on white shields, but nice jump at the very end. Ends up not only getting X at the position they wanted to play from, but taking Fun to safety. With the assistance from the Loba as well, this is where Xet's composition should really shine, as they'll have so much more sustain and ability to influence the map. I'm actually surprised that with all of that, they've chosen a rather passive position.
Yeah, it's just chosen to stick to the high ground right here. I mean, they do have the beacon behind them, and Tempest and the Wave being on the Seer do have the ability to just go one-on-one to get that beacon control here too. And there's so many cryptos in the area that can deny that set of information to the squads playing on the low ground. But you talk about angles in Stormpoint, playing off the high ground right here leaves you susceptible to getting hit from 3 different directions if you don't count the low ground being a pressure area. from Stormcatcher, you have to worry about the squads rotating away from Cascade Falls, Command Center, from Thunderwatch, and from the no-name spot on the side of Stormcatcher to the east side that some squads like to rotate when it comes to rotating around the big hill that Thunderwatch is right next to.
Speaking of, we've got a little bit more of a traffic jam happening over here. Sentinel's actually crafting it up right now, just next door to the IMC Armory, but BR Demons are right next door to this. But there are 3 squads in this area, and nobody's really paying attention to each other. Aiden, the first one to go, is anyone else seeing this? Like, we actually have so many squads to take a look at, not just the one in the IMC Armory, which should be Optic, farming up a little bit more loot.
And Optic already had great loot. Like you mentioned, they exit out of the mill, and the mill has amazing loot. BR Demon says, you know what? We understand the situation. We're going to take the Skyward Dive instead and prioritize our rotation with 2 squads being in this area. You can see the Optic Gaming take the cannon right outside of the armory. They're also going to be able to try to rotate right behind them. I like the decision to not only farm the armory, but also the fact that they are going to be able to now take the Skyward Dive without having to utilize it out of the armory and now take even more distance outside.
How aggro do Optic get is the game that I'm playing, because you've got that much loot, a squad just about golted away from you. Do you go for it? Luminosity Gaming, unfortunately, are getting aggressed upon. Nizel likely to fall here, dodges those missiles just in time, and some nice cover fire from Jaguares will keep him up for now, but Luminosity Gaming around the side of the map don't even have the ring going in their favor, is so far out of really any building, any safety, any cover. The only thing going in their advantage here is that nobody else wants to be here.
Luminosity having to play off the outside of the Cyril. You can see the grenades bombarding that player from behind that rock. He gets the knock over. The nice follow-up here between Yanya and Izul with that 30-30. They're playing from the back end of this tree, and with that squad holding the other side, they know that they have the number advantage in their name, but they're playing off the low ground. You can see them try to ping, maybe if they want to wrap around, but the circle is closing in behind their backs.
Oxygen were the ones to lose a member there, so we'll keep our eyes on the kill feed to see how they do. As it turns out, it isn't looking good right now. Kupski's just been knocked as well, but for SZN, who have just gotten aggressive with an Ashhold, things aren't looking too shiny either. Plain down simultaneously, and Furia still up as 3 people are able to clean up nicely. It is 2 that get knocked, though. Zera still playing with fire around the outside, gets that good damage in and takes out SZN. E8 are coming up for the third party, though, and this should be a relatively simple to execute one as well, as interruption not coming through just on the reset initially, but still should be a nice little bit of kills, as there's not really a place to run in the zone.
Yeah, they're just going further and further away. E8 is not going to let loose here on this aggression. Why? This is going to be that free knock onto his Watson all over against that KP. Will count for them. Sarah literally pops the syringe at the very end. He's trying to get away. And with little health to work with, it's going to take a lot and tax a lot out of his health. BR Demon's in a fight here too, over by Jurassic Park, onto Optic Gaming, who actually chased them down.
They've got 2 knocks already in their favor. Enemy round in the corner with just the right check as well. Should be able to find this last kill. Out goes Duplex and knocked, and it is a full squad wipe in the favor of BR Demons, and a much needed one to keep them in the top 10.
And this is beautiful there too, because let's not forget that BR Demons had used the Skyward Dive to get out of where the armory was, over on the north side of Cenote Caves, and then Optic Gaming covered even more distance to try to cut off their rotation when they took the armory gravity cannon out into the Skyward Dive. So that was just them essentially chasing them down, with BR Demons coming out on top with all the great loot that Optic Gaming sent to their feet.
It's a great way to answer, right? If you really want to chase us, if you really want to fight, we'll absolutely do it. And that's what Tripods are saying right now. Taking out 2 different people. This is a real problem, as unfortunately Sentinels just don't seem to be in the best spot on this low ground. 2 down. Tripods do give up the height to go for the loot and go for the kills. This early in the game, though, they should still be able to recover and make their way a little further into zone.
Fear also got finished finally by E8. Unfortunately for Zero, he could not get away in time here. Tripods now playing off the low ground, while G2 try to rotate on the other uphill side of that mountain. But there's so many squads in that area there too that Tripods have to worry about the team that's playing off the high ground.
Maybe these 2 teams coming to a head. Space Station and Luminosity, both teams of really incredible discipline. I would characterize them as very similar to each other in the way they like to play. Perhaps Luminosity just that little bit more comfortable with their own style. But even so, even Luminosity swap those things up when we move on over to Stormpoint. You'll notice they're not running things like the Gibraltar anymore. You talked about it just last game, but the Bloodhound that they've chosen to go with here does signify a serious shift in playstyle as they accept the new map.
Yeah, with the Stormpoint change up, a lot of these teams feeling much more confident rocking the Bloodhound Bangalore composition. Of course, this Valkyrie is a mainstay pawn here for these teams, for these rotations that could be so detrimental, especially on a map like Stormpoint. We talked about the disparity between the high to low ground and what that Skyward Dive could help cover. Tripods now trying to take a split angle, though, trying to cover a lot of ground, exiting out of Cascade Falls, while Exit are just going to patiently wait inside in this side alleyway, kind of to the south side of this POY, where they're not going to leave here. They're just going to wait to see where the circle is going to be pulling in. We have seen this circle take a 50-50 approach, where sometimes it pulls more towards the side of the gravity cannon to their south, but it can also pull towards that choke point that is south of that storm catcher area, where it could lead towards that sometimes that beacon in that no-name area to the side of Cascade Falls.
It's so hard to call right now. There's only one squad that knows for sure, and Karasuno up on the height should have that beacon scan to really confirm. We know that Guard have made it into the zone as well, and with the Crypto, should be able to pick up a little bit of information. But Luminosity Gaming, not concerned with info as much as they are with damage and kills, have managed to push off yet another squad, one that we can assume to be Space Station, who were previously right next door.
And Luminosity having the high ground right here and still taking control over this side right now with a squad that was right next to them originally. And Zul falls incredibly low, but they're not going to be giving up this spot. The charge rifle is going to beam them from the high ground here. And Sentinels are running for their lives after getting crushed back into the game.
Tripods don't want to allow that, and they certainly wouldn't mind a little bit of extra KP. White shields on the opposite side, but they don't have something like the Bloodhound, and instead, with this Rolling Thunder coming in, they're actually going to eat a significant amount of damage. Deeds manages to dodge that out by jumping down onto the low ground, medkits having to be popped, but fighting in zone is risky, especially zone 2 that ticks that much faster.
Yeah, that was the insurance from the Rolling Thunder right there, just to give them some extra time to restabilize, but Tripods are not going to let them go for free here. He gets the crack. Nice beamage with the R301 in Jen's hands here, and now they got the high ground. They're still going to take this fight on the outside of the circle, and like you mentioned, they do have a little bit of ways to go here into that next circle, but it's all the KP that Tripods could work with.
Already an additional kill for the Tripods. They've made it one. They can make it that much more. Sentinels do get taken out, and Tripods all the way out here. No one can hear you scream. They take out yet another team and start making their way into zone. BR Demons, the one team that could gatekeep them here, and Space Station Gaming coming around the side could very well get involved.
They could get involved, and they could also distract the BR Demons while Tripods make their way into that circle. What timing would that be here for them to work with, especially since Tripods are taking a Skyward Dive? They will be able to pick up on that. The best way is for them to rotate on the high ground, and they are just actually taking the back way around. They are going to pick up the BR Demons with the Valkyrie passive, and they are going to also find Space Station, so they're going to fight for the same building in Space Station's line of sight.
Everyone and their mother sees this rotation. Just paying pure attention to the squad that's just backed in from zone that they know is weak, and Tripods don't appear to have spotted Space Station either, so they're going to run it down this hill, completely ignoring the squad that we know is at their sides. In comes that scan right back, but enemy has the aggressive angle. Reeds is
now.
down, Space Station got involved, and a little bit of hubris, a little too much aggro from Tripods really costs them here.
Reeds was like, I'm going to take a side angle right now, and they didn't know Space Station was there. Like you said, oh, the beam right here, too. Coming in from Tripods with Nick Merckx getting that knock on the 30-30. Tripods actually rotating from the low ground right here. It was BR Demons that thought they had an opportunity without Space Station making an appearance till the very end.
Yeah, the BR Demons, a correction, of course, were the ones to make the overextension. Tripods now get to take advantage of it, and the third party from Space Station Gaming really non-existent. They already got what they came for. They've got a pretty clean rotation up as well. It's a Bloodhound scan to at least reveal that Space Station are still threatened by Tripods, but they don't have to move just yet. They're still safe, and Dropped has an incredible angle out here. The fact that he there we go, finds the knock. That's Tripods losing one, and Space Station firmly in command of the fight now.
Out in the open there too. Nice anvil receiver for him to also get that damage done, get that player knocked here, as Space Station are going to be playing on the outside of the Seer ult. Here's that respect that Space Station needs to give, but in the beautiful line of sight of drops allows him to also get the follow-up before the missile swarm from Zen is going to be able to get that knock.
Now G2 were sitting on the height, so as Tripods go out, Space Station's rotation in is still far from clear. Charged rifle shots from above, no immediate third party coming through, but still something they're going to have to keep their eyes on. As we look even further up to the north, it's Guard that sit inside this next zone pull, as it is going to be a big culling of squads that have to jump their way, especially out of positions like those in Stormcatcher.
And being on the high ground here too, I believe that's Luminosity that's playing right underneath them as Verholz gets that knock onto Nizul, and 100 Thieves finish up what's left of Luminosity. Jaguares being the last one to go down. TSM now on the approach right behind him. That's what happens with a much later rotation from TSM to take their time into this next circle. The Guard, a different page from their book. They rotated here from the very beginning, have been able to grind out their evil shields with those charge rifles.
Just putting down the hurt on TSM. A rotation from here seems nearly impossible. Even a Valcult isn't going to cover that much distance because it'll be going uphill. And TSM, caught between a rock and a hard place, caught between the zone and the Guard. I'm not sure which one I'd rather take a fight with.
Definitely not this zone right here. This zone's gonna absolutely make your eyes water. Exit also playing off the low ground here. Let's not forget that we're playing off the other side of the low ground of Stormcatcher, so they finally poke their heads out. They see the black market opportunity from Noct to be able to get as much loot as they needed. Since they were playing here from the very beginning, they denied themselves some loot, but they were able to trade some shots on the squads that were playing on the other side that are actually still there. You can see the pings going on from Exet, but they have to start moving into this next circle, with the circle closing in less than 5 seconds.
Good shots to cover their back. As you talked about, their setup with the Newcastle is going to be one of the most important things here. I'd almost rather see Exit move their way towards Command Center instead and try and post up near one of the positions that'll be left open over there. It is a little bit riskier, but it's going to come with a lot less squads fighting you for your spot. The Guard fighting TSM, as we illustrated before, still have advantage, and with Rambo on the flank, you know someone's about to get lit up. There goes Reps. Not a chance at survival, and Keon finishes off the team to keep TSM out of the top 8.
What a beautiful engagement with the start of the EMP, just to make sure that things are opened up for them, so that way they can immediately finish that fight and turn their backs to any other squad that may try to take an opportunity to force them off. But there's so much fighting happening on the high ground here. It's Space Station that are also playing on the outside of the command center walls, outside of Stormcatcher, and so many other teams that want to get involved with them trying to reset. The shield bats come online, and now the Rolling Thunder as well on top of it, trying to prevent the Reds from coming in, and they come into beat them, but look to behind them. It's another team.
SSG in a lot of trouble right now. Do still have 2 members standing, though it be low. G2 goes out. They get the quick shield swap. No nades are coming in from 100 Thieves, who are bunkered down inside the building. Instead, oh god, the cancel on the heels just barely misses, and things get all that much more complicated. Exet have been able to hang on to just underneath this Stormcatcher, but do not have an easy way out of here. We've talked about things like Valk ults before. At this point, a little too little, a little too late, perhaps. Whereas on the opposite side of this, the Guard are the ones that get to pull the sort of Exet-esque play from game number 3 of the day.
They're going to take their time, too, with Exit playing underneath EA, and I believe it's Complexity on the other side. They can't move too far. They're going to have to walk in with the circle, or else they're going to be in the line of sight of both EA and Complexity at the same time. Meanwhile, on the other side, which no team is going to try to push in from Stormcatcher, it's got to be the Under Thieves fight. Exit now see the EA drop on top of them, and that just is green light for Complexity to actually third-party them.
Exit just have to stay alive here, keep their health bars full to be able to push off Complexity should they get aggressive, and aggressive they do. Nocturnal eats just that little bit of damage, but red shields, plenty healthy, no cracks yet, keeps him safe. He may be one of the only ones, though. Fun still has the opportunity to ult over, and that he does, but positions the shield defensively against Complexity, not against 100 Thieves and Karasuno, who are at their backs. There is but a pixel of safe space for Xset to be playing out. If Complexity go down, E8 fall as well, and while we're into the top 5, Xset still are going to get aggressive right now. It is a dangerous place to be.
Oh, and the guard took the skyward dive to go over the mountain right now. They jumped right on top of Space Station. No. They weren't expecting it. Another team holding the high ground is just going to continuously pressure them out too. They get cleaned up in 5th place, and Space Station still survive.
That Valkyrie so hard to time as well. Great absorption from Space Station on this low ground with the split second of extra time that they have. Karasuno still on the top of the building. 100 Thieves inside it. Space Station on the outside. And Xset, albeit as a 2-person team, still have one of the best spots in this lobby right now. The one that doesn't have to face off against anyone else, and the one that evidently is going to have a zone pulling to them if they can just navigate over to the tree. Their biggest competition has to be Space Station.
That and 100 Thieves with the crypto drone are going to have that information if they do manage to pick them up, because all the fighting is going to be happening on the outside of this building. Once these teams are funneled out, like you mentioned, they're going to be funneled into Xset's point of view. 4 squads left between Karasuno on the high ground, Xset playing this out as a duo currently by the outskirts of the pill bottle. You can see the pings coming out from 100 Thieves, and then Space Station playing on the edge of the building.
The biggest problem for Xset right now, their Newcastle went down. The one thing that could make a very difficult to play area a whole lot safer has been taken down, and trees meager enough cover as Karasuno end up watching 100 Thieves full send it. They don't even take a shot, just let it happen. 100 Thieves are going to pick up 2 quick kills, eliminate another squad, push themselves into top 3, but lose Onmu in the process. Rez is going out. I don't see any nades following as an EMP stops any third parties, and Karasuno take their reset on the high ground, leaving 100 Thieves open. That gravity lift not quite going to connect, though it would have been deadly.
That was a huge EMP from Scurry. Even though it just was right there to prevent the third party from going on, it's enough for Karasuno to also have to respect them. With Space Station still underneath them, they want to take the dub instead. They get beamed by Space Station on the low ground, and they don't have line of sight with the Bangalore smokes blocking them and the rest of the team.
It should be Space Station versus Karasuno with 100 Thieves to third party. Can anybody manufacture their way out of this? Can anyone take the win away from 100 Thieves? Already a drop's gone down onto the high ground. Space Station are getting sent on, but they've got the advantage. Stick comes in from 100 Thieves as Karasuno got taken out. 100 Thieves light up the kill feed one more time. The last hurrah of Game 5 as they take the title.
That was huge at the very end, too. Also cleaning up the KP of whatever was left of the Xset had allowed them to finish that game with 5 KP to their name.
That was a real nice finish for 100 Thieves. Like you talked about, it actually played so passively up until that point, and the fact that they were the squad to do it, that no one even punished them for pushing out onto Xset, devastating as they got to take that power position and just make it work.
And then the insurance on the EMP, too, at the very end was beautiful for them to work with.
It looked really good, and the nice thing about it was that we had a lot of squads that got their time to shine as they moved in. The BR Demons shutting down the aggressive moves from Optic Gaming, and Tripods even still able to find their own squad wipes before eventually jumping in and taking out the very same BR Demons.
Yeah, also here on the other side with Space Station also getting the initial knock. The Tripods that were trying to just rotate away, they get finished off. The guard with a beautiful approach onto TSM, taking not only off angles, but to make sure that they could finish this fight as quickly as they could with the EMP to actually start off that fight here too. Space Station survived the very end to not only stop one team, but to stop 2 teams after the guard took the skyward dive and landed on top of their heads.
Now, this is really a beautifully played end game from 100 Thieves, as they did get to come in, play clean up on everything, and likely grab themselves a whole lot of points for it as well. Like you talked about, a little bit more of a passive game from them, but we're going to get the chance to check out those points now. Space Station Gaming actually still coming out on top.
Ooh, with 12 KP. They went crazy at the very end, especially there. That trickles down to the two squads that try to contest them for playing on the outside of the building that Karasuno was holding the rooftop for. And it worked beautifully for Karasuno's rotation because they do land on Stormcatcher. We saw them win the initial 50-50, and they just had to rotate onto the outer building of where Command Center is.
Yeah, this was really, really nice for Karasuno, and like you talked about, the control of the beacon meaning a lot for them there. Elevate also having one of their best games of the day, top 5 performance for them. You have to give them respect for being able to pull that back after what has been certainly a disappointing couple weeks for them. Guard right underneath, again with a good prioritization, lackluster finish as they jumped right into the waiting arms of Space Station Gaming, but you can't blame them. 12 kills doesn't happen on its own. Space Station really showed up big this game, and they've got one more chance to do it. Our last game here of Oversight is going to be happening in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to Oversight, powered by Hyperlux, where Dia and Vicky have taken you through 5 games today, and we've got one more left to close it out. Let's take a look at the scoreboards to see who's in the lead. Xset naturally still in the lead, 69 points so far. They've got the chance to push themselves that much further.
Nice, and now we got Luminosity right behind them, still 53 points with Space Station, though, with a very amazing game, getting second place with 12 KP. Yeah, they didn't take the dub, but still 12 KP and getting that second place spot has allowed them to elevate themselves into that third place spot, nooked right in between the Guard and Luminosity. So they only have that point advantage over the Guard by one single point, who are sitting with 40 points.
Still really, really tight competition down towards the bottom end of our teams that'll qualify for next week as well. The BR Demons sitting right at that cutoff point, 25 points, tied with TSM, and that is a scary team to be tied with, especially when Esports Arena are right behind them. Two historically very consistent teams that are, I will say, experimenting a bit, but looking good while doing it.
Yeah, that three-way tie, very interesting. TSM not having the best time on Stormpoint versus what we had seen them perform on World's Edge, where they were able to secure a good amount of KP, but caught in the middle of the rotations, it seems like, here on Stormpoint, with BR Demons also trying to play more by the edge, try to actually time those third parties. Elevate, with that final game, though, popped off with a good amount of KP to their name, even fighting Furia on the outside of the circle to prevent them from resetting.
I'm really glad that Elevate had their game, like we talked about. It's a good way to get some momentum back, and a reminder, this is their first time in the Oversight finals for this split, so if they can make their first appearance and stick around and qualify for next week's finals, it'd certainly be a win in my book, and maybe some wind under Elevate's wings. As we do have this last game, though, we've seen two very different looks on Stormpoint. We talked about the variation in circles and how things play out in, say, Fish Farms versus over by Stormcatcher, but the real difference I felt was in the pace of that last game, Vicky. We were moving so fast.
Yeah, there was a lot of fights happening on each end. We saw two 50-50s, the one that we've been seeing since Game 4 on Down Beast with G2, and then the other 50-50 that we saw on Stormcatcher. So a lot of individual fighting happening on each end, and even the fighting that was happening over by the Armory on the north side of Cenote Caves.
This is going to be yet another completely diverse poll, as I love when we get three completely different looks at the map. This time taking us a little bit further into the southwest, giving a few teams that perhaps land over by Mill, Cenote, to get their time in the sun. Even Jurassic, where we know Guard land, will have a nice central position, but that information, that first move, is really important. We said it at the start of our games on Stormpoint. A squad in motion is a squad that's going to do well, and that's where where we can really look to teams that are landing over by places even like Lightning Rod to get moving early, where G2 unfortunately are stuck in the 3v3 with Esports Arena. They're coming out on top of it just yet, but first knock onto Luda does look good. It's traded back though onto Chaotic, and this could go either way at this point. Resulta gonna pull off a flank right now, gets that initial crack, but gets taken down. Capra taking no disrespect. Ultimately does get lasered and taken out, but Esports Arena outlast and outplay for the final game of the day.
And with Esports Arena being tied with TSM2 in the overall standings, this is great because this is their final game that they're starting off with KP. And this is another 50-50 that we keep seeing. It's going to be Crossino versus CLG on the other side of Stormcatcher.
Crossino also sitting comfortably inside our top 10. These contests have really given them a whole lot of extra benefit, with 6 points for them so far. CLG are still playing up top though, and still playing that caustic. They've got some secret sauce in here. It's maybe that comfortability that we talked about a little bit earlier. Out goes the Skynade and the Gravity Lift at the same time. What a perfectly placed Skynade. Wave is deleted.
Oh, but they trade that for a knock, and they're going to prioritize just making sure Nano gets back up. They don't even want to try to push it at a disadvantage here, even if it's going to be a 2v2. I like this call because it plays into what you mentioned before with Mamba being on the caustic. Playing inside of Stormcatcher means that they could just barrel up inside, take their time to reset, but that also means also was able to reset on the high ground. And here comes EA. They took the gravity cannon, or as I call it, the yeet cannon, and they brought some grenades with them.
Everybody knows what's going on now. CLG are chasing down onto the low ground, but they are temporarily sandwiched. Gravity Cannon as E8 are still rocking up behind. This means CLG cannot take any time to sit back. They end up getting a split fight as Karasuno try and disengage onto the high ground. Nano pushing this forward, gets revenge for the knock earlier. James Fearless is down, and you want to full thirst that because I'm not sure that CLG know there's another squad with them yet.
Yeah, they may have heard the gravity cannon, and they may have got some confusion going whether it was the other squad or not here, but now the Wall is just trying to prevent this last straggler from Wave to try to get away and at least secure some space. E8 now are just trying to follow the trails of CLG, breaking down the caustic barrels, and that's at least information that there is a squad right behind CLG.
Like a breadcrumb trail, but so much more aggressive with all the caustic barrels laid out behind them. CLG got height once again, but a health advantage still in the favor of E8 for right now. They barely managed to hang on to this top 10 position. We talked about how they need to have a good game right now to keep themselves here, keep themselves qualified. I want to see E8 play with patience.
Well, they got the tools to do it right now. They got the purple light mag on the R301. You also got the purple evil shield, and they're boosting it up with even more damage, racking up with the squad playing underneath them. Also nice to note that that one last member of Crossino, Tempest, is still alive, so maybe trying to find an opportunity if they could secure getting James and Wave in their banners, and they can have another shot here in this lobby.
It's certainly possible with two squads entirely distracted. It was that gravity cannon that took them down onto the low ground, but we've got still a lot of play around the outside here as it appears that E8 are trying to disengage, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to either. They've got some good cover fire on the way out, rather CLG trying to disengage, and they've got some good cover fire on the way out as ultimately the rotation down towards the zone is going to be much more important, especially for a squad and a team comp like CLG's that wants to play more defensively.
Yeah, I like this call from E8 just to disengage. Instead, you could see with Golden still with the purple Evo that they're just going to be able to rotate around Stormcatcher over by the direction of Cascade Falls, see if they can find any other teams that are in the middle of that rotation here too, as the Guard are in a fight inside of one of those dome-shaped buildings. See Complexity taking a lot of fire though, having to secure themselves inside those bunker doors. So many of the teams have already made their appearance inside Cenote Caves.
This is really becoming quite crowded, but it's not the only spot. Launchpad's getting a lot of attention as well. That's where CLG chose to make their disengage through, and for the moment, they've got a little bit of safety, but with the zone coming in, I'm not too envious of it just yet. We talked about SSG. Lighten up with James Fearless finally getting knocked.
We're out.
Trident to disengage. Wow, that is the biggest nope button that you could take.
Either that or the extra cover button sometimes too with some of these open area circles that we've seen, which looking at where that next circle is pulling in Cenote Caves could happen if it pulls towards the island to the west of Cenote, but I do think it could continuously pull north. CLG, as you can see in the feed, are just looking for the straggler, but Exet get lit up. It's the guard that come out on top for that fight.
Yeah, that is a big turn in this lobby. As in the lead, Exet have no more opportunities to accumulate points, which could very well take them down to even second place. Should the rest of these squads get a little bit more aggressive, look for a few more kills. Luminosity surely are noting this and gunning for that top spot as Oxygen go out as well.
Yeah, it's Luminosity with 53 points. Let's not forget that. And Exet with 69 points sitting in first place right now. The guard now going to be able to wrap around with that squad holding the safety of the inside of that armory door. But they have the loot now that they can work with that was left by Exet.
And it's not just that the 53-69 difference is now 56. 69 difference is Luminosity picked up every single kill on Oxygen, closing that gap a little bit further, and as they start to collect placement points, the rate at which they're able to do that is really going to speed up. You like this for the guard, though, as you mentioned, picking up a little bit of extra loot here does mean that their spot should age a lot better, as the constant pressure on zone teams is to be able to have enough resources to outlast, and now they've got a chance to set more of that up for themselves.
Yeah, especially with the fact that they could contest the teams that are going to be rotating away from Barometer, rotating away from Jurassic Park. I do believe they have already noted that complexity is inside those bunker doors because they did help pressure out Exet, Space Station, as well, taking their time to rotate into this next circle. It's all about understanding where that next circle is going to be pulling towards Cenote Caves, because with so much limited space to work with, if you want to play inside of a building, you want to be able to at least secure the high ground that Cenote Caves does provide with the rock formations.
Space Station
Oh,
looking
they
like
see
they're
them.
going to try and gatekeep this. They don't have that many meds, which is the only thing that worries me for a Space Station. Luminosity, on the other hand, will have a lot more economy, so Space Station maybe taking their fate into their own hands. A little bit of indecision from the squad, actually, even on the map, is dropped as 50-50 on what they want to do here. Instead, going to head towards Spider Caves, collect a little bit more loot, and move themselves into the zone, taking them right past the eyes of the BR Demons, who are still set up in Barometer.
Huge here with BR Demons on the outskirts. They're going to be able to also see if Space Station want to engage on this fight against Luminosity, but Luminosity taking their time by the Replicator, saying it's fine. They will take all the time that they need to make sure that they have the tools that they want out of the Replicator. And with the Skyward Dive from Space Station, they're not going to look to circle keep. They're just going to be able to rotate into that next circle. And look at ESA's position right now on the high ground of this rock. Optic Gaming are going to be able to try to pressure them out just a little bit, but they're playing on the edge of this circle, which could also bring in a lot of attention for the teams that have already set up inside of Cenote Caves.
And being able to even just get this much more height temporarily means that they should be a lot more relaxed. Esports Arena is unlikely to be challenged from behind in a position like this, with so many squads already prioritizing zone, but if they can hold on to these rocks, they've got the opportunity to not just pick up kills in front of them, but take a Valkyrie later that'll get them just that little bit extra further into the zone. Luminosity Gaming making their own entry into it is still much further to go for the next round, but as we talked about, plenty of meds as well.
Doesn't look like the Replicator was enough here for them. They want to make sure they can clear out all the spiders too. Want to work with as much loot as they can work with, because not only did they finish off getting some KP themselves off of Team Oxygen, they were also able to use that Replicator to boost up those Evo shields. TSM dropping down from the high ground, though, are going to try to counter-rotate around this team that had to try it over to their side uphill this fight.
Getting pretty aggressive right now. A push from TSM would theoretically be good, but you don't want to overextend, especially into the limited sight lines over towards Spider Caves, which is where that retreat was going down towards. Instead, TSM have the move to be able to take away the Trident should they need to. Luminosity taken to the sky. CLG did some good damage there. It was mostly onto Jaguaras, who should be able to stay alive right now. Both members detaching themselves as Yanya eats some DPS as well. One more well-placed shot would do it, but Luminosity will be able to stabilize for the moment. And I say that only temporarily, as that Valkyrie did not get them as far as they wanted to avoid eating damage. They had to land much shorter.
Yeah, Jaguares quickly went behind the tree, didn't even try to take the gamble of getting inside the building, because believe that was either BR Demons or Space Station from inside Barometer that was pressuring them, and of course, CLG with a much later rotation on the outside of the circle. Talk about taking their time. Furia on the high ground, believe it's Optic Gaming still playing up the low ground now, making their appearance after Optic Gaming made some noise on trying to pressure TSM on the other side as well as ESA.
I really like this position from Furia as well. It gives them so much flexibility as to how they want to approach the next zone. Assuming that they don't have beacon scan, they're going to have or be able to play either side, moving closer to Barometer or down towards Cenote, depending on what this next ring naturally reveals to them. That, and being able to third party really any fight that happens in Millage. So great role for Furia.
Yeah, I like that positioning too. I like that point that you brought up right here, Dio, because this rotation has also allowed Furia to take that 50-50 gamble, not only having the high ground position over the squads playing right below them by that armory closer to Mill, but they'll also be able to call off whether they want to rotate from the north side around the big mountain if they want to approach from the water area of Barometer. So with 100 Thieves as well on the other side of the rock and TSM taking up some space with the Trident guiding them there, they're going to be playing off this rock side and taking a slower approach, because this is one of the teams that are outside the top 10 right now.
Tale as old as time. It's TSM versus Dark Zero. I'm so happy that we got to reunite them for the last game of the day. One last opportunity for Dark Zero to assert their dominance, or TSM to put them back in their place. We'll find out which it is, because there is no question about it. Dark Zero and TSM will be clashing. It is simply a matter of minutes. And that's not the only teams that are going up against each other. We've also got plenty of contest over in Cenote Caves, where the Tripods are actually taking an engagement of their own. Guard, gatekeeping complexity from the next zone, continuing to get that zone read with the drone that has really worked out for Guard super well today.
Yeah, they didn't need to leap from that spot from the very beginning here, too. Reaches just gets sent down here, too, by Frex. The Space Station engaged in this fight. You have to imagine TSM are hearing a lot of the action since they wrapped around the rock on the other side where we see Dark Zero posted up, but they're not going to be able to engage on this. Dark Zero are just going to be able to sit heavy inside of that building, not give up that space or that free ability to just rotate for TSM. Space Station, though, after popping the Beast of the Hunt, want to make sure that they're going to be able to deny the other teams that are rotating away from the Gale Station antenna area into Barometer. Huge beamage with the charge rifle right there.
Bro, who's got white armor right now? That is the go button. I think it's the universal language of ape for SSG, but they hold on for right now. Not going to commit onto the low ground to try and pick up these kills, respecting that there's plenty of safety down here, and instead playing more for the gatekeep later on. SSG have not only hype, but first move on the zone. Nades to be able to block these exits as well, and well, gosh darn it, they've got a crafter, which we know our edge teams have just loved today. SSG, you know what? When they were looking at Luminosity earlier, we're probably just envious.
Yeah, they said, why can't we get some of those replicated goods out here? And, you know, CLG probably actually being the squad that later rotated in. That's probably CLG playing up the logo right now. Actually, Claim getting sent down currently right now. And that's going to be CSZN eliminated by Tripods, who took control over that other side of Cenote Caves. Space Station still chasing down the squad playing on the low ground, and with the charge rifle in the hands of Frex, he is out for blood. A beautiful follow from Drops with the G7. And that is going to be CLG that's pressured out underneath them.
Deemy taken down as well. Dropped, really cleaning up what Frex is setting up right now. It's charge rifle into double G7 slap, and likely an elimination on the squad. Mamba not able to join the rest of the team, not even in death, as he's going to be put down outside of the zone. Luminosity valking right over Space Station, should be able to take control of this choke. I'm not seeing any other squads there just yet, but they could be in for a nasty surprise over by Cenote. Karasuno won't be making it. 14 squads left. BR Demons go down. Dark Zero have started taking fights, but it isn't the one that they were supposed to take against TSM.
Yeah, it's against Optic Gaming. They knocked down Duplex out here too, and you can see the charge rifle still lighting up the feed. Space Station in the fight as they make their fight uphill. It's E8 that get wiped out, and with the Bangalore smoke, they're outside the line of sight of the guard, who are now forced to rotate on the outside of this building here too. Wondering where TSM is on the other side of this rock. They're getting sent down by Sentinels, actually. They get a trade for trade with Senox finding Hal and Reds finding Crust.
This could still go either way, and I say that across the entirety of the map, but Furia on the height right now. Do have to be careful of damage from afar. Got good angles on Space Station, but the rest of the lobby's looking at them as well. Panders finds Flesh, does not commit onto the low ground, instead playing things safe and slow with the rest of the team. Watson, the one that's really able to provide a lot of that useful cover. Good ult on the outside to continue zoning as Guard take their fight up against Optic. For right now, it's been a knock on the Guard as RK and Rambo are down. It's in the hands of Keon, who does clutch up just the one knock, but ultimately not enough to keep the Guard in it. 100 Thieves come in instead to clean up the rest and ultimately should be able to thirst at least one. Baxlon playing things slow for the moment, gets right back up. He's literally just 1v3ing this right now, and while he gets slowed, he still manages to put in work onto Optic, taking them out.
Optic get eliminated from this lobby in 10th currently right now. They were able to secure that building. 100 Thieves playing off the low ground while Luminosity is looking at the fights happening on each side. Look at his Watson and his positioning. He's taking a much wider angle while the rest of Fury are playing a little bit to the back end, but with the safety of the smoke, he's not worried. He knows it's Luminosity that's right in front of him right here. He's looking at both angles, but he knows with the Digi threat that through the smokes that there is that squad that's trying to restabilize.
That fight between Sentinels and TSM ultimately went Sentinels' way as well. Finally finished out one of the longest 3v3s we've had all day. While Furia try and make their way into Cenote, they've got to be cognizant of other teams that could try and rotate in behind them. Most recently, Dark Zero were out of the zone. And as well as I'm looking at the map, their most likely rotation should take them to the south, but we haven't got confirmation of it yet. Complexity, meanwhile, deep in Cenote right now. Luminosity here as well, although missing Yanya.
Forced to play this out as a duo currently. And with Furia going to be able to actually hold the high ground. Yeah, Dark Zero trying to climb up, and they find themselves susceptible to the RE45 melting down Sharky. Panders was out on the shield, but it's fine. You got the Digi threat. You got Zero now making the swap over from the car into the R301, and they clean up this fight so quick. But look who's right behind them here too. You got Luminosity still finding the knock.
And that's going to be a full thirst as well. It's another two-man squad that gets created here and maybe even gate kept. Luminosity can turn a Dark Zero fall into their own win. Furia do get taken down. 6 squads left, and a nice cleanup by a combination, actually, of Luminosity and Complexity.
Luminosity being in second place right now is such a big deal since Exet was, the second to last squad to go down in this lobby here in 19th. 100 Thieves are in the high ground right now, and Tripods are trying to get the opportunity to actually fully send it onto Esports Arena, but a little risky with other teams actually in the area holding onto the high ground to have them in their line of sight.
I can't believe Nick Merckx is alive right now. Eating this Arc Star, though, could cause some serious problems. Has to pop that shield bat, still in the line of sight of other squads. Tripods are fighting for control over a single rock at the moment, and ultimately are going to have to retreat right back down. Don't have the safety to rotate elsewhere. Instead, taking a moment, taking a breath, and hoping that other squads have to get involved instead. Gent, I believe running low on meds right here, may not even have the heals to make it work. Esports Arena, the ones that were angling out on them from above, and 100 Thieves maybe trying to jump down on Luminosity to at least clear out a squad that would be at their back.
And the team that's playing this out as a duo, it's still cleaning up KP, that it has Furia's name written all over it now with the EMP getting unleashed. Luminosity playing from underneath, have to cover their backs with the smoke grenades. They have the Digitards, but it's not going to be enough. 100 Thieves take the opportunity to make sure that they can wipe them out. The Black Market slightly blocking out the door, but it's fine. They're going to be able to break through that, so that way they can quickly reset while the other fights on the other side of the circle is going underway. Tripod's forced to rotate from the high ground, but they're in the line of sight of 2 different teams.
How is Deeds alive? Just 10 HP, still up somehow, and able to reset here. Nobody's itching to fully commit to a fight just yet. Third parties still very much available, and Tripods with a good bit of height as well, may be able to make this work. They've got one squad that's contesting them for it. Out to the southwest, Deeds throws out a few rockets, makes sure that they're safe, but Tripods, for them, it's all about managing these angles right now. Esports Arena are looking for their spot. Complexity aren't going to challenge anybody, just waiting for the game to move over towards them, but Esports Arena, as just a duo, don't have the pushing power to fully look for a fight. The 100 Thieves evidently aren't going to have that power either, as the Arc Stars raining around them, instantly claiming Onmu and Skirwy. Vaxlon, still trying to stay alive, pops back to the building with a limited amount of safety, but a little bit of smoke.
Field day here for Sentinels. They cleaned up TSM, and they're looking to clean up more heads on the other side. Complexity called up the circle beautifully here, too, with a nice, easy rotation outside of the vault area of where Cenote Caves is into that underside right between Sentinels and the other teams right in front of them. 4 squads left right now to play off of, and Sentinels are looking to claim even more. You see that Arcstar also knocking down Scurry, 100 Thieves now in a lot of trouble, leaving only 1 member left from that team.
I mean, if I'm Sentinels, if I have any nades, I am tossing it out at this, because you could claim 100 Thieves' lives right now. Just 4 squads left, but that is in formality alone. Crust is still keeping tabs on this, but Sentinels, I think, recognize that their biggest threat is not the squad that's been whittled down to 1 member. 1 member that, in all likelihood, is going to get taken down right now by Tripods. Drop from Gent, takes them down. We've got 3 squads left now, and it's a good finish off. Inside, Complexity still run this place. There is no trespassing on these caves, and I think the dream for Complexity here has to be that the other 2 squads on the outside fight, that it's Sentinels versus Tripods, and that's looking increasingly likely.
A different episode of MTV Cribs out here with the Watson fences lining up the entire perimeter of the underside of that tunnel. Sentinels getting involved after popping the Beast of the Hunt on the outside of this. It's going to be Tripods, Complexity, and Sentinels, with Tripods having the positional advantage.
The Tripods are really laying down pressure right now. Senox just keeps tabs on Complexity, but pops right back in to having to cover for his teammates, make sure that they get these heals off. Complexity even scouting up above. Sentinels playing this corner of a rock. It is so risky for them, and out come the nades as well. We're seeing if there are knocks, nothing in the kill feed just yet. Jet healing up, still unchallengeable height for Tripods, but Zone's going to start to push them in. Complexity have Tripods in their line of sight. Sentinels are looking for this as well, and Tripods find themselves the belle of the ball. Everyone looking to take their spot. Complexity funnel out of the cave, maybe right into the line of sight of Sentinels. This could be the dream for Tripods up on the height. Ooh. Complexity are doing serious damage, though, not taking a lot back. Eva comes out at short range, but ultimately they've got to retreat back down to the low ground. Our Complexity opting into a heal off with the teams on the high ground. That may be the call, as Tripods do take the fight up against Sentinels, taking them down, moving us to top 2 squads, and Complexity funnel out to try and take the kills as well. Knocked right back into the zone. Tripods say not today. Put Complexity right back down, and in the final heal off, Deeds commits onto the low ground, trying to get these kills, trying to find a good knock, and he does enough. Tripods take the win for game number 6.
With an insane KP too. Did you see Jet at the very end? He went crazy. 8-9 KP just for Jet alone. Tripods with a beautiful ending right there, having the high ground, but they fought for it. They were in a very tough spot in between 2 teams, and they still were able to hold God's spot. Amazing performance at the very end for them.
Such good management as well. It was Sentinels that was really impressing me in that three-way fight, just keeping tabs. Senox constantly checking back on Complexity, pushing them back as well. It actually looked like it was going to be really well played, maybe even a Sentinels dub if they could manage it. But like you talked about, Tripods, a squad that so many people questioned the experience of moving into this season, has once again demonstrated this amazing endgame control, not just taking the 3v3 and letting a heal off happen, taking the game into their own hands. This squad has grown so much this year.
Yeah, I want to actually elaborate on that point too, because this is the team that already has qualified for the next split of the ALGS. It may not be for LAN, but it's the fact that they've been able to grow so much as a squad, and actually picking up on a coach for this team is going to allow this team to go even further. So with Tripods ending this tournament on an amazing note, I can't wait to see all the outcome that Tripods is going to bring into the competitive ALGS space.
Yeah, they've already looked so good, and I'm glad that we got the chance to let them end the year on a win because, well, it may not be in the overall scoreboards. A win certainly feels good in Tripod's book, as we will have the opportunity to look at the way that they performed that game and overall. Ultimately, Tripods clinch that top 10, not just top 10, top 3, getting them some prize.
Can we talk about the tie, though, between BR Demons, TSM, and E8 at the very end with 27 points?
Wow.
Insane for the end part of the total leaderboards. And with Exit also winning, they were the first team to go down in that last game, but they narrowly scraped by Luminosity, who, as a duo, was also able to clutch up some KP at the very end. Didn't get the placement points to actually fully take it over Exit, but it was a 9-point difference despite Exit taking 2 games in our entire 6-series game.
And it did some really good work, and if Luminosity had been the team to go down instead, we might be talking about Tripods in first right now, or rather in second, because they, with 53 points, have at least met that threshold that Luminosity was at to start the day. The cutoff, of course, for prizing is going to be Space Station Gaming, who slot themselves in at 4th, but all 10 of our top 10 teams have net themselves an invitation back into Week 5 of Oversight, and that's the real goal here, is they accrue all these points to get themselves into the playoffs at the very end. This isn't the only playoffs happening, though, Vicky. I know that we've got the regional finals going on Sunday, and you can tune into all of the teams that you saw today, all your favorites, right there to see how they perform. You can also catch Oversight next year, as we're going to be taking a break for the holidays. This was week 4. We'll be back with week 5 of the season in the new year on January 5th. So I believe, Vicky, you'll be casting that, if I'm not mistaken. So you guys can tune in then and catch some more Oversight action. It has been a joy to cover the action over here. Excuse me, I'm getting all end of year.
It's been too crazy out here. It's been too crazy, Dia. It's been really exciting. I know, it's been super exciting to see all these teams actually play out their lives, especially with the finals right around the corner, the regional finals right around the corner this Sunday. So there's a lot of line here, Dia. I can imagine.
Yeah, we've summarized it all well. I don't want to talk for too long. I don't want to keep you guys, because I know that we've already had these awesome 6 games, and that is enough to reflect on. Thank you so much for joining us this year, and we will see you in 2023. Thank you.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.